Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. We were supposed to do these a lot along the way of the year, but it's really hard to get guests, and I'm very honored and thankful for Greg Owen to be on the show today. This is Chatting with 30. I didn't know what the name of the podcast, Greg. I've been working with stuff. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go with Chatting with because why not? So thank you very much for coming onto the show. And how are you? We just rebranded just for this show because before that it was like 30 podcasts chatting with nerding with it's been all over the place. So this is a new. Oh, you know what? They can't hear you, son of a bitch. I had you muted. Look, I've only been doing this for like 10 years, so you got to give me some time. I'll get used to it. Real quick, YouTube lurker, you crazy son of a bitch, with the 50 gifted memberships. Thank you so much for the continued support. Appreciate it very much. And yeah, so Greg, as I screwed up the intro for you, how are you? And thanks for coming on the show.
Round two. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on. I love watching your show. I'm really excited that we're going to talk.
Yeah, I appreciate it very much. I came across your channel. It was, I want to say, the end of April. It was like end of April, beginning of May. And your channel has exploded, I would say, in the last like 4 months, at least from when I started watching. You were like in the 40,000. You've already gone up to you blew past 60, and now you're closing in on 70.
It's been nuts the last couple of months, which is really shocking to me because last summer was very dead for me. So then this summer is doing great, and you know how it is. Like you try to learn the patterns of YouTube and when are things active, when are they not. Like it's part of the business of it. And so I'm trying to learn these things, and now my data is completely upside down from last year to this year. So I don't know what to expect, but I do know that it's a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying it.
Well, that's why I want to get to you. I had my first guest on the show. His name's the Kingard, and we became pretty good friends. We talk a lot. I didn't know how big he was. When I looked at it, he had 30,000 subscribers, but he blew up big time because he was making content about Ackman, I think it was Ackman, and it blew up. So he didn't know what to expect in his stream or his channel because he grew so fast, but then he realized that those people are not coming back for other content like that, right? So
yeah,
what I want to ask you, I want to get to know you. I want to get to know, because I love your content, all right? And I'm not shilling for you. I really, truly, really enjoyed, since I found you in the end of April, beginning of May. I watch all your stuff. I love your writing. I love your humor. Like, to me, it is that dad humor, but it's the same. Like, I love the edits you do, and you throw stuff in there. I love your detail analyst of the Acolyte that you did. I mean, I didn't watch one frame of the Acolyte, but I watched all 2 hours and 20 minutes of your breakdown of the Acolyte, right? And that's what I love about YouTube. That's what I love about how, people are interested in certain things, and if you like it, watch the 2 hours. If you don't, watch it for 30 seconds. You know what I mean? So how did you get started, right? Well, actually, before you even get started in YouTube, like, do you have a real job? Do you have an actual, like, thing you do during the day without doing YouTube? You have something that, pays for the furniture in the house and stuff?
Oh yeah, I do. But before I'll tell you about that. But first, since you were nice to me, I'm gonna be nice back, because the reason I like watching your show, because you say, well, I'm not just gonna blow smoke. I know you're not going to, because in one of the videos that I watched, you were watching one of my videos, and you were like critiquing it, and they were fair points. That's why I like watching your stuff, is because you're not pulling punches with anybody. I remember it was like about the Star Wars. It was the Star Wars Outlaws. Did a video about it.
Yeah, the $130 trash. Yeah,
we're seeing these ugly female models or whatever, and there were a couple of them that, like, I overextended, and you were like, well, that's like a frame taken out of context or whatever, and that was a solid point. So that's why I like watching your show, because you're authentic and you're not trying to BS anybody. You're not tagging other channels just to slobber all over them in the hopes of getting attention or some crap. Like, I think it's really great commentary. It's really good reactions. It's not just watching other people's stuff and going, ooh, oh,
right,
wow, oh, like, it's really great stuff. So I do have a day job. It is. I don't talk about it much because,
You don't have
entertainment
to tell us
and
what you do. Yeah, just
yeah, well, it gets stuff gets kind of political, and but it's an industrial job.
okay.
So I've been working in industrial plants since I was 21. So that's what I do during the day. That's what pays the bills. And I I got started with YouTube because I just like learning new stuff. Like every now and then I'll take up a new hobby.
That's
Like a few
awesome you say
years
that.
ago, I was
Yeah.
like, coding sounds like fun. I learned not much, but no, I started learning to code and I thought it was kind of fun. And I was like following tutorials, making little tiny games in Unity and stuff. And it was fun for a while. And then I kind of, it petered off. And I do that from time to time. And I thought, wow, video editing sounds like a lot of fun. So I'll make some videos, see what that's like, and I'm sure that everybody who watches YouTube, and I've had the same thing. You watch these people because my wife used to watch a lot of makeup
Mhm.
videos, like makeup tutorials and stuff, and it's usually younger people, and I remember watching them thinking these people are making a lot of money and they're stupid. Like these people are
Yeah.
dumb as a box of
Yep.
rocks.
Yep.
So I thought, okay, I can do this,
Like, how
right?
hard
And
could it
so I
be? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, it turns out it's extremely hard, but it's a lot of work. But so I started making YouTube videos. My wife has always been my biggest fan. She thinks that I'm way smarter than I really am, and she always says super nice things. And she's like, "You're smart. You have great things to say. You should make some videos." So I started making them, and I really just found that I enjoyed it. Like you talk about the cut-ins, the various clip references and stuff. Like that is some of my favorite. That's some of my favorite stuff. The writing, trying to write clever jokes or interesting things, or finding just the right fun clip to put in, or match up what I'm saying with what the person is saying, or whatever. Like I have a lot of fun with the editing. Thank you so much.
So do you,
Tea
do you
delivery.
like do you like writing? Do you love writing, or did you like writing and now you love writing, or vice versa?
Yeah, it's that. I always liked it, and now I love it. And it is. I like the challenge of trying to come up with, because YouTube's huge, and it's hard to say something original, and I think it's impossible, but it's hard to say something even remotely close to original. Everybody's saying a lot of the same stuff. So I like the challenge of, I'm trying to come up with an interesting take on a subject, especially when 10,000 people are talking about the same thing.
Right.
What can I say that's interesting, or how
Yeah. How
can
do
I
you spin
say
it?
it that's
Yeah. How do you spin it?
different? Yeah, can I add a different bit of humor? Can I make a reference that other people are not making? That is that's like a fun challenge, especially when we're talking about like shows and stuff that are coming out. You'll find that a lot of people are making the same joke. They're making the same. They're spinning it the same way. So I enjoy the writing process of like how can I be unique about this, or how can I be different or funny in a different way, or whatever. Like that's a fun challenge.
So I asked Kinger this because he loves putting little inserts of when you're writing and you're doing your script. Do you have an idea of what clips you're going to put in there, and do you have it like how long does that take to put in? Because look, I come actually from the movie industry. I
Mhm.
used to work in television and film. I used to do a lot of editing and stuff, and I hate editing. I hate it. I like making the stuff, right? But I hate
Mhm.
editing. That's why I mostly do what I do of live content because I want to do as minimal editing as possible. Like what you see is what you get. I put it out there, and that's what it is. And then I'll break those out and make those into videos. And those weren't doing very good, so I decided to stop doing even uploads, and I just do the live stuff now. Um,
Yeah.
so do you have that? Do you have that like those little? Yes, yes. When you have that in, like, do you have that clicked in your head? You're like, I'm gonna put that there, like ahead of time, or
Yeah.
do you do that while you're in the edit, going, oh, you know what, this will be good here.
Sometimes it's both. I try as much as possible to have everything done ahead of time. Um, as a matter of fact, somebody just emailed me the other day. Somebody who's just starting their channel, and they emailed me and they were like, "Hey, how just a question about YouTube, because there's no user's manual for YouTube, which
Nope.
makes it a little frustrating." And so this person just reached out and they said, "Hey, you seem super confident on camera. How do you just deliver whatever? Like, do you have notes or whatever?" And I emailed this person back. I was like, "I don't have notes. I have a full script. I have a teleprompter. Like, I write out every single word ahead of time." And that's when I'm thinking of what's the clip that I can put in here, and what's a musical reference that I can throw to try to get them just, a lyric that says what I want to say or whatever. So I think the misconception is a lot of people think YouTubers just turn the camera on and they just start saying stuff.
Wait, that's what I do.
Well, you do. The rest of us don't,
I
right?
know,
So
and
that's
that's why you're
why.
successful though, and that's
No,
why I'm
that's
not.
why you've got a daily streaming audience. And if I streamed every day, they're like, "Wow, this guy's actually kind of boring."
Well, okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah,
But
but
that's
that's really
the.
though why you have a good. That's why your channel's growing. My channel won't grow like that because of the content that I produce and the way I do it.
Mhm. Well, but I think everybody looks at it like we're doing different stuff.
Sure.
So I don't even think that we can really it's apples to oranges because I remember I watched your stuff a few months ago and you had like 25, 30 viewers consistently a day. Now you're peaking at like 50,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So as far as consistent people that are hanging out with you for 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, it's doubled in that time.
Sure.
So the sub count thing is I don't want to call it meaningless because it means something, but it's where you and I are not operating in the same spheres. So your channel's it's growing because you've got loyal people that hang out with you and watch your streams every single day.
Right.
So I think that's a huge success.
Look, and I'll never. I never throw shade to anybody. Like I said, I would rather have 100 subscribers and 100 viewers every day. Right.
Hmm.
Like that's what I'm going for. So you saying that it means a lot because that's exactly what I'm going for. I'm not going for the large numbers. And I truly don't care if I ever get to 100,000 subscribers or 60,000 subscribers, right? Like I'm trying to get to 3,000 subscribers. But I also tell people like if you're not going to watch my stuff, don't subscribe because
Right.
I don't want you to subscribe because you're just going to hurt my numbers, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and YouTube will hurt you for that. Like if
Absolutely.
you were talking about somebody else that they get a bunch of views, they get a bunch of subscribers, but then if they don't make that same kind of content, like if you have a viral video that is not exactly the type of stuff that you normally make, that can really end up burning you because you'll gain a bunch of subscribers because you talked about this random thing that took off, and then the rest of your channel doesn't have anything to do with that, and they might not unsubscribe, but YouTube does look at that discrepancy, and like I'll post a video sometimes that's kind of outside of my TV shows and movies, maybe a little bit of video games lane that I'm in. Like sometimes I want to talk about a book or something, or sometimes I'll want to talk about video games, but not through the lens of pop culture and like entertainment in general. Like I
Right.
made a video a while ago just like about video games and the easy mode debate that everybody has, and how can difficulty be implemented or whatever. And that is very off field from what I do, and it bombed because most of my subscribers are like, I like hearing you talk about movies and TV. So talk about your video games, have fun. I'll catch you on the next one.
Right.
And then YouTube sees that and they're like, oh, your regular viewers don't want to watch this. So it probably sucks and we're not gonna show it to anybody else. And so yeah, that'll hurt you when you gain a bunch of people who are not really invested in the channel. It'll burn you.
Do you like when you see something like that, when you see the numbers not as like how do I ask this? Do you have a minimum of like when you post a video, you're like, okay, I want it to hit at least 10,000 views. I want it to at least hit 20,000 views. And if you make a video of gaming out of your, it's off putting of to those entertainment people, are you okay making content like that? Like, are you personally okay with that? And would you make that again? Or you're going to go, the algorithm doesn't like that. I'm going to stay away from that.
So I do it I don't mind doing it every once in a while. Because if you do it too much, I don't know this for I mean nobody knows for certain, but I think if you do it too much, I think YouTube operates partially on momentum. And like I have a good momentum upswing right now. And so I feel that I need to sort of post on a regular basis and I need to be posting things that I know are going to appeal to my audience. Eventually that momentum will wear off. Like that is just, the YouTube cycle is how it works. But I believe if you do it too many times and you have too many really bad videos in a row, I do think that it will kind of put you in a little bit of a penalty box, and then YouTube will sort of make you prove yourself again to pick that momentum back up. So I don't mind doing it every now and then if it's something that I'm passionate about. Like I think in a month or two, I have a video that's really more about books, and it's a little more philosophical, and I'm going to make it anyway because it's something I'm interested in,
Mm.
and it might not do great, but that's okay because if I do it maybe once a quarter or something, or every now and then I'll make videos. I really have a very strong passionate hatred of like the whole red pill thing. I hate that young men are just being told that like materialism and hedonism is just that's the way to solve all your problems. but I can't talk about that all the time because it's not movies and TV. But every now
Right.
and then I get excited and I'm like, no, I'm making the video. I don't care. That's what I'm gonna do. Hold on just one second.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, the YouTube algorithm chat is very very finicky when it comes to stuff, and this is exactly why I don't say this to be like, oh, boohoo me. Like, I stopped caring. I've been doing this
Hmm.
for like 10 years. I was on Twitch, then I went to Mixer, then I went back to Twitch, then I went to YouTube, then I went back. I've been all over the place, right? I've combined total, I've had like 25 to 30,000, like followers on different platforms and different things combined, but none of that means anything to me. I just want to make content that I want to make, and I have a friend. He's like a producer of mine. He helps me, and when I have questions of stuff, because he does this for a living for YouTube. Like, he helps bigger content creators make content and stuff like that, what they're going to talk about and stuff. And he gets so frustrated. I don't even know if he's here. He probably is. He gets so frustrated with me because he's just like, why don't you want to play ball? I do want to play ball, but I also don't want to play by their rules. You know what I mean? Like, I'm okay. Like, you want me to post 4 times a week? I'll do it. If you want me to do this, I'll do it. But I can't make to me, it's not original. If I make content, let's say Shadows comes out, right? AC Shadows comes out,
Right.
and I'm making content just for that. I'm not really interested in that game. You're not going to get my authenticity of me talking
Yeah.
about that, or making that, but the algorithm
It'll
likes
come
it,
across. Yeah.
right? But
Oh yeah.
I'm just like, I don't want to deal with that. So I stay in my lane, which is what I do, and I love it, and I'm okay with it. And it's almost like, and I'm gonna kind of swing this more towards the family home, right? Because I was a traveling guy. I worked all over the country. I was on the road a lot of times, and then when I had my
Ooh,
son,
that's
he's 10
hard.
now. So I've been a stay-at-home dad. I went from working all the time to being the stay-at-home because our family, we have a farm, okay, and my wife works for the farm. It's a family farm, right?
Ooh, I'm
Like,
jealous.
so, well, if you ever come to Florida, come on by. I'll show you the place.
I'm in the
So,
Panhandle about once a year. I'll have to stop by.
well, yeah, we're in Central Florida. So, um, she works there. I don't do anything with that, right? I mean, obviously I'll help around and stuff, but I was like, what am I gonna do? And it was a hard transition for me to working the camera, traveling, to being a stay at home, and then doing this, right? Like, this is
Yeah.
not my full. I mean, it is my full time job, but at the same time, it's not a full time job. You know what I mean? Money
Right.
wise, it's not. So, but I do it because I love it, and I do it because I believe that I'm good at it. And from my early videos to now, I've grown so much. That's why I can sit here, stand literally, for 3 hours a day and just chat away, right? So
Oh yeah.
how do you balance, right? How do you balance YouTube? How do you balance your work life? How do you balance your family? Like, how many kids do you have, Greg?
6.
Well, you and Ginger Prime. I don't know if you know Ginger Prime. Brian, he has 6 kids as well. I thought you had 4. My God, how do you guys do it? I'm so like, I don't have enough time with one kid, and you have 6. God bless you. God bless you.
It's not me. It's my wife that does it all. Like I said, that's the thing. Like, she's the one that supports me, both like helping out around here and then just, morale wise telling me that I'm great and rizzing me up, I think, as the kids say. But she's the one that handles that stuff. I mean, she runs the homeschool here, like checking that. It's Yeah, I'm the one that's getting off easy because I'm like, oh, I have to work so much. I'm gonna go work. Like, you do all the hard stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be at work and then I'll
I
make some
gotta
videos.
edit.
Like,
I gotta edit.
oh, I have to make money. Oh, like, she always tell me like, oh, you make all the money. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing the easy stuff. Like, I just grind out and that's fine. Like, it's super easy. She's the one that has to handle all these little children and they're loud and like I said, it's the homeschool stuff and it's transporting people and all of that. Like, that's how I have the balance is my I have a partner. Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah, my wife is very supportive of. She knows, she's like, you know, uh struggle, but at the same time, she's like, you're good at this, so keep doing it, right? So what's the ages from the youngest to oldest?
It is old, youngest is 4, and then it's 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. In a
Okay,
couple
so
of
you're
weeks, we got some birthdays, and then I'll start thinking about it. But right now, it's all even numbers. It's nice.
so are you in your 40s or are you in the late 30s?
I am 39.
Okay, so
My wife and we met in high school, and then we got married at 20, and then we started having our first kid at 22. So yeah, we got started early, and no,
Brian, who was Ginger Prime on YouTube. He's a comedian. He is a
Hmm.
developer for games. He's a father of six, and I'm just like, man, how do you guys? We all have the same amount of time in the day. Like, do you sleep a lot? Do you get enough sleep, or do you work on the 4 hour, 6 hour schedule type of thing?
Uh, I should get more. I think I usually get like 6, sometimes 7. Um, I don't know. I think I've been doing shift work a long time, so I think I'm just used to that.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I don't. Maybe I am more tired than I like. Maybe I'm like a functioning alcoholic, and I don't know that I'm tired. Like it's
Right.
just this is what I've been feeling for 20 years now. I don't know.
Like you're in that space, like when you have like 2 beers in, 3 beers in, you're just like you're in your prime zone. You don't even know
Yeah,
that you're
you think
drunk or
you're
something.
okay,
Yeah,
but you're not.
yeah.
Yeah. But as far as the balance goes, the what has been working for me lately is trying to do more things that I can actually involve the kids with, and that is it's a nice way to like I'm doing both. I'm spending time with them, and I'm also getting some work done, and it becomes like really fun quality time. Like, did you watch Arcane on Netflix?
I did.
So the season 2 is coming out, which you probably know in November. I'm gonna make a video, just like a recap and slobber fest of season 1 because I think it might be one of it's. I mean, it's a masterpiece of
I
television. It's
I
it's
agree.
incredible.
I agree.
And so we watched it last year, and I'm gonna make a video just maybe next month or later this month, I think, of hey, Arcane is amazing. Season 1's incredible. Here's a recap. Here's what makes it so amazing, and everybody get pumped for season 2. So we're all watching that together, and my 14 and 16-year-olds especially, I talk with them. They like to kind of read about storytelling, writing, things of that nature. So I watch the shows with them. I get their input. We kind of powwow about it. They point out things that I'm not noticing. So it's stuff like that allows me to get some work done and hang out with them at the
Mm.
same time. And so yeah, combining it is one of the ways to get it all done.
I do that with my son. I'm actually trying to persuade him because he wants to be a YouTuber. That's what he wants to do, right? Of course, that's what they all
Yeah,
want to do. And I was like, all right, well,
yeah,
if you want to
it
be
really
a
does.
YouTuber, let me give you a capture card. I was like, play your games, capture all the stuff. I was like, I'll teach you how to edit. I'll teach you how to do all the stuff. I was like, and start talking about.
Yeah.
He was so excited about this Minecraft mod that he got for Realms. It was
Hmm.
like a realism mod or whatever. And
Yeah.
me and Sarge on Thursday night, we were talking about it, and I was like, you know what? Let me just get my son. I was like, I'll just bring my son in here and let him tell chat. And he came in like a pro, dude. Put a little step stool right in front of here, and stood up and started talking about what was in the game. And I was standing behind him on stream, and I'm like, pretty pretty damn good at
Yeah.
right. Like I was very surprised. So, get him. Like when I look at a game, I'm a I'm an old curmudgeon old man, right? Like I'm 46. I look at this and go, get off my lawn. That's not my game that I want. He looks at a game completely different. He's like, oh, it's so cool. You can do this and that. And I'm like, oh, you know what? It is actually pretty cool. Yeah, he
Yeah.
brings me back down to like, reality of like maybe I'm not supposed to be this critical of a game. Maybe I'm supposed to just enjoy what it is for what it is. So I like that. I like bringing my kid as he's 10 and he's getting older. He starts to help me with games or help me with his point of view and stuff like that. So, um, going into YouTube, when you first started in YouTube again, were you making this content that you were making right now back then, or have you changed and shift over the time? And when you do it, do you put yourself under entertainment, or do you put yourself under gaming? Do you put it yourself, or do you stay like in that pop culture lane of that?
I'm pretty certain that I'm almost always in entertainment, I think. I'm not even sure that I should check on this right now actually, because
You're like,
I
son of a
think I
bitch.
think a long time ago I went to the settings and I just said always put me as entertainment no matter what. So I think it auto populates that way. Let me see my last one here is what?
I moved over
Yeah, yeah,
from
it's
gaming
entertainment.
to entertainment because when I was doing gaming, I was getting the algorithm and stuff like that. I was like, you know what? Let me try it. So for the last month, I put myself in entertainment, and I'm actually getting better numbers. Um,
So I think gaming is it's hard. That is one of I think it's the most difficult genre on YouTube because it's so crowded. And it's one of those things that's easy and hard. Like obviously anybody, it's easy in that anybody can just turn a game on and stream, and I mean you're a gaming YouTuber, right? Like
Right.
it's literally there's no barrier to entry, and so the market is flooded, and so to stand out, you've got to have something. You've got to have something different. Like I was saying, like I think your authenticity is kind of what you're. And this might just be me being old, but I hate watching my sons YouTube because their gamers that they watch are just screaming constantly, and I hate it so much.
They're like
So
hyper.
yeah,
Like, they're like on Red Bull. Yeah.
yeah, or yeah, like they'll watch Minecraft videos, and I mean the camera is just and I'm like, how do you guys watch this without throwing up? Like I don't get it. So I think that you got to have something to stand out. Like gaming is it's hard, but I think yeah, I think switching over to entertainment would be, it classifies you different, and I think that if you're reacting to stuff, I think that's a correct that's correct there. But no, I leave it on entertainment, and I didn't start doing this. So originally I was like, I'm gonna be like a self-help or not like a productivity type, but it was gonna be more like a lifestyle type thing.
Okay.
And I was doing it. It was all right, and I made a video one time talking about Marvel, and it wasn't about Marvel. It was in the context of like value your time. Like as a human being, you only have
Mhm.
so much time.
Yep.
And this was 2 years ago, and She-Hulk was coming out, and
Oh, that
Wakanda Forever was coming out, and there was
masterpiece.
something else.
Masterpiece of Hulk.
Yeah, and so the video was like, don't waste your time. You don't have to watch this crap. It's garbage. Don't waste your time. And that was what the focus was supposed to be. And that one did really well. And it was my wife who said, watch that video and then watch the previous video that you made. And like just look at the energy that you have. When you were talking about the previous topic, I don't even remember what it was. She was like, it's all right. But then when you were talking about movies and shows, you're more animated.
Yeah.
You were having fun with it. So that's when we decided to pivot a little bit, and I still do, I put the dad mode section in, or I try to put a little life advice or something, but it's sprinkled in while just being entertaining, and then I just push that stuff in. So that was how we changed it a little bit.
Well, I have to say, when I watch your videos, obviously I know they're scripted, but the way you do it and the way you're very natural on camera. I don't
I
know if that's how
appreciate
you
that.
started, but from when I started watching you till now, you're very good on camera. The way you, the timing that you have, and again, I know you do this in the edit where you cut it and stuff like that, but still, the way you present yourself on camera, you're very good. You're very entertaining. You keep me interested. Where, sometimes you watch people and maybe you watch it for like 2-3 minutes or whatever, and then you kind of like doze off. No,
Yeah.
I watch your stuff constantly. Like I said, I watched your 2 hour and 20 minute video of the Acolyte, and I was late to it because I didn't know you were doing a premiere or whatever. And I
That
came
was the
in
first one I did. That was fun.
and I came in. It was like 45 minutes, and then I was like, oh, I gotta go back and watch the rest of this. So, yeah, you can 100% tell that. Look, you're gonna go places on YouTube. Like your channel is definitely going to exponentially grow. Just in the last, like I looked at the stats and stuff, and I was just like, man, he got like 20,000 in just the last like 2 months or whatever. And you just sort of blew past 3 weeks. You celebrated 2 weeks ago. You celebrated your 60,000.
Yeah, I think it was the beginning of. I want to say it was right at the beginning of August that I actually hit it, and then it was a few weeks later. I was like, oh, I meant to do one at 50, and then I need to do a 60. So yeah, I think I've picked up. I have YouTube up here. Yeah, we've picked up 6,300 in the last 28 days. So yeah, just a month ago, we just passed the 60,
Nice.
and then it's going to keep going.
So where do you do you ever see yourself, like, if your channel gets big enough? Like, I don't know what you have as your goal. Like, do you want to hit 100K? Do you want to hit, do you want to do this full time, or do you want to keep it in the side department?
If I could do it full time, I 100% would. Now that when it first got monetized, when you first start making money, you start thinking, okay, well, this is cool, and you start to kind of change the way you think about it. But it was still more of a hobby at that time, even when I got monetized. And slowly it has grown from just a fun hobby, and then it was like a fun hobby that made $20 a month. And it's, I'm with you. It's still not like full time. It's nowhere close to full time money. Like it's going to be 2 years before I could quit or whatever. But ultimately, that would be amazing if I could just be here with my family and my wife all the time, just making the videos. Because right now, the only real downside is I'm trying to work as hard as I can to grow the channel, but I still have the full-time job and I
Right.
still want to hang out with my kids and everything. So trying to sneak in that time it gets a little stressful. So my wife and I were joking about it because I'm exhibiting signs right now. What I'll do is I'll have like 2 amazing months. And then she was joking because the other day I was like, I don't know, I don't want to write right now. I don't want to do anything. And she's like,
Yeah.
this is what you do. You crank it out for 2 months,
Burn
you
yourself
grow,
out.
you blow it up, and then you're like, I want to not work for like
Yeah.
2 weeks. I just want to play video games.
Yeah, you can't do that on YouTube.
No, you have to keep at it. And yeah, Astrobot just came out, and I'm like, maybe I don't want to make videos right now. Maybe I just want to play Astrobot like real bad. So that's the tough thing. And ultimately, if it got to the point where it would be like a full-time thing, yeah, I would love to do that. It would be incredible. But that's really far off. So right now it's just it's it's transitioning more and more from a hobby to like a side gig at this point, and then maybe one day it'll become a full-time gig. Who knows?
When you record your stuff, how long do you take to record it? Well, actually, I should say, how long do you take to write? How long does it take you to write one of your videos?
I haven't time the writing because I do it here and there. Like pretty much I use Notion, and I keep all my stuff on a Notion page, and little sub pages in there, and I just kind of have that up a lot in my browser. And whenever I get a chance, I'll write a little bit in paragraph, and it just I work the writing in stages. But I think I've done rough calculations, and start to finish between writing and filming and editing and all that. I think generally it takes roughly an hour to an hour and a half per minute of video time
Okay.
to fully produce a video. And like I said, that is front end writing. And for me, that's where most of the work is because I can do that anywhere. Um, so that I'm more flexible. So that's why I've been putting more and more effort into the writing in the clip cues, writing in all that kind of stuff. So that way, when I'm home and I'm filming and editing, I already have everything.
Makes
I
it
have all
easier.
my notes,
Yeah,
and
makes it
it
easier.
makes the back end so much faster.
Do you when you write, do you write for the edit?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That was a tip that I saw. I watch a few channels that are in videos about making videos, and that was advice that I saw a while back was to write for the edit because I used to I started out just with an outline and I would just sort of just say whatever, and then I would end up having to clip a bunch of stuff or clip where I sounded dumb or I repeated myself a whole bunch, or I would have the video and be like, oh, I meant to say whatever and I forgot. So then I started writing the scripts out, but I didn't have a teleprompter, so I would print them and I would look and I would memorize like 2 sentences and then I would deliver it, and then I would memorize
Right,
two
and
more
that's where the cut
sentences and
is.
I'd deliver that,
Yeah.
right? Then I had to cut all that dead space out, and then finally I don't remember how I found out that so many YouTubers use teleprompters. That is so common apparently, and
Yep.
I had no idea. I was the same impression of, wow, all these people are so charismatic, and it's like, no, they script. That's the secret. And then teleprompters, if you have a tablet, teleprompters are like $200, and I was like, are you serious? I thought teleprompters are like professional grade,
Yeah.
thousands of dollars. No way that's
Nope.
accessible to
Now you
me.
can get it for. I mean, Elgato's got one that you can use for a
Yeah,
little. Yeah.
it's incredible. So now knowing that, yeah, I write for the edit. And like I said, it makes the filming, the editing, and everything go so much faster if you have it all thought out ahead of time. Because I used to film and then I would think, well, it's been a minute or two since I've had a funny clip. What could I put in here? And then I would try to insert it later, and that's okay. But it just takes more thought and work on the back end. And there's only so many hours that I can be here at my desk, so it's more efficient to plan it out.
Do you work on when you're writing? Do you work on multiple videos at a time? Like if you have an idea for like the show, and then you have an idea for the book that you're reading, and the idea for the game that you're playing, or do you just focus on one at a time?
Recently, I have been doing multiple at a time, and that has been it's been helpful with my stress level, and it's helping me get videos out more consistently because I used to get an idea, get excited about it, start making a video, and just work that video start to finish. And I would usually finish it the night before I would finish it, and it would get a good copyright thumbs up, and then I would post it the next morning. And now I'm attempting schedule a bit more, and since I know what videos I want to make throughout the rest of the year, I can work on those a little bit more. Or if there is a video that I know I'm going to need to read a book for or watch a movie for or whatever, I can have those tick boxes in Notion and as reminders like, hey, you need to make sure you watch this movie because it's going to be part of a script that you're going to want to talk about. So that has been very helpful. And once again, all credit, my wife's a big organizer. She's a planner girly. She buys the planners, the oh gosh, it's like a whole cottage industry of these weekly
Oh yeah,
planning diary things, and
yeah,
she's
yeah.
super into it. So she's very organized. She a couple of years ago, she heard about the bullet journaling thing. I think that's where this obsession started with, was the bullet journaling. And she started that and it changed her life. And she's been trying to get me to do it ever since. It's not taking fully, but she has got me at least to make a
That's
calendar
a
for the rest of the year for the videos that I'm
that's
going
a
to make.
woman
So
thing. My wife would
it's a
get along
start.
with your wife because she we went to Texas recently, and we were in Austin, Texas, and she went to a store. I forget what it is, but all they do is have planners. It's a planner store. And she walks in and she's like, "Oh, this is so good." She's like, "We gotta go in there." I'm like, "What is it?" She's like, "Oh, they have a whole bunch of," and they have the different pages and the different, and I'm just like, "How does this store stay in business?" I was like, "How does
Right?
I was like, how does this happen?" Right? So, uh, I totally get it. My wife's an accountant, so she's very organized. She's very good with numbers and stuff like that. So that's funny though when you say that. I was like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about with the planners. Yeah, what is it?
Yeah.
Ask your wife. What's the name of the planner? It's probably the same one.
What's the name of your planner?
He's probably talking about Hobonichi,
What?
but I am currently using a Sterling ink.
Well, she was using a Hobonichi, but currently is using Sterling ink. That
I'm
is
gonna
the
have to
new
I'm gonna have to get
planner right now.
with my other half and see which one she uses. It's some company that's where are you located in the country? Are you you're on the center?
Southern Illinois.
Okay. There's a place in Texas. I forget what the place is called. I think it starts with an L or something. I'll have to look it up. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's pretty funny that get the organization. Yeah, guys don't. We're not organized.
What's crazy is when you were talking about like the whole how does a store stay in business, it reminded me my mom is really into quilting. And I don't remember where this place is, but there's some town that it's like quilting mecca or something. And
Just
she said there's
quilting.
really not much in this town, and but there's giant quilting store and there's multiple stores and they're all different themes, but
Amazing.
it's all owned by the same person. And she made like a pilgrimage there and bought a bunch of fabric, and she's telling me about this and I'm like, wow, this
Exciting.
sounds amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I'm happy for you, I guess.
Quilting, you say? That's amazing. Yeah.
Right. Whatever gets you going, that's fine.
Hey, what I've learned about on YouTube, just like in real life, there's something for everybody, right? Sometimes I go down the
Yep.
black hole of YouTube and I watch people mow grass or pressure wash a sidewalk, and I'm like, why am I watching
Yeah.
this? I have no idea, but it's entertaining. So
Well, it's what you were talking about when you were saying like I don't want to just make content that's popular, right? But the thing is, I think that's why you have a consistent audience, is because if you're just making whatever's popular, you're trend chasing, like you'll see good numbers at first that's
yeah,
artificial. And then, like you were saying, it'll come across, your eyes will be dead because you're just like, I don't want to talk about AC shadows anymore like this. I don't want to talk about this, right? But you'll be talking about it and your audience will know. And what's interesting about YouTube is there's a balance. Like you can't just talk about whatever you want all the time because maybe there's not an audience for it. But I think if you're passionate about whatever it is and I know people say authentic, it's very cliche, but it's the truth. Like
true.
that I don't know how to define it, but that's what it is. If you find the combination of being real and also talking about something that other people are interested in, that's where you find the success. And you see people either go one way or the other. Like you see people either completely, basically playing with themselves on camera, and it's like, wow, why would I want to watch this? This is all about you. But then you
Right.
also see the trend chasers that are so phony, and you're like, okay, those are the ones you were talking about where they'll get a big sub count, and you'll find these channels that have 500,000-600,000 subs, but their videos are getting 20,000 views a piece, and you're like, oh, you were chasing trends. That's what happened, is you picked up a bunch of numbers to
Right.
make yourself feel better, but nobody actually wants to watch your stuff because you're fake.
What's the most stressful thing about YouTube for you?
Um, I think the most stressful thing is the pressure that we put on ourselves because we own 100% of this.
Yeah.
And so what you can get into is the more I work, the more I'll like the more
Or you put in, more you
the
get
more
out.
success I'll have.
Yep.
Right? Since I keep everything, I keep all the money, I keep all the, the subscribers. Like I don't it's a one-man business. And I'm sure that you felt the same pressure where you're like, well, what if I stream 5, 6 days a week? What if I also stream in the evenings? What if I stream in the morning? Like,
Yep.
could I be more successful? And you probably could, but I think that's the most stressful part is reining your own self in to be like, okay, I made one video this week or 2 videos this week and I feel good about them. I don't need to make 3, 4, 5 videos this week. I don't need to be working on this until 1 a.m. every single night. That's not healthy. And long term, that's not going to be successful. That I think is the hardest thing because I have a difficult time with that, not being like, but if I work really hard, I'll be more successful. And it's like, yeah, but I'll hate myself.
Right.
Yeah,
I started off when I was on Twitch. I was doing I had the night shift when my kid was born, and so my wife would sleep, and I would take the 11 o'clock in the morning to like 4 a.m. and I would stream, and then I would just get up, and if I had to feed the kid and whatnot, so I was streaming like 5-6 hours, and I was doing that 7 days a week, right? And I was doing that all the time, and then I was just like, and then I did days, right? Because then when my kid went to daycare or started going to school, right? I was like, oh, I can stream and then I was streaming for more hours than I wanted to. Now I start at 10 and at 12 or 1 and I'm done. I shut off.
Yeah.
I don't sit here anymore in front of the computer. I go do my stuff around the house. I go do the stuff around the farm. And then when 8 o'clock comes around, I'll sit down in front of my computer at 7 o'clock, and then I'll start getting ready for the show at 8 o'clock. And I do that Monday through Thursday. And then Thursday night after that podcast, I sometimes I do a podcast with my buddy Reforge on his channel. We talk about video games and whatnot. But then I check out Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I check out, and to me, I'm more happier than I've ever been before on just making content over all these years, because I make time for myself. I make time for my family, right? And it's a balance, and that's the big thing. And that's why I say you have 6 children, and I'm just like, man, how do these people do this at this level? Because I know it doesn't feel like you, but you've passed the 60,000, right? Like, a very small percentage of people are actually, they just lowered the recommendation again for people to get monetized on the channel on YouTube. I think it's like 3,000 hours watched now and like 500 subscribers.
500 and 3,000. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
And like the people that are monetized are like a small percentage of people that are actually making money, or a small percentage. And you just being in the 60,000 mark, you're in the next echelon of people, because then it starts to separate itself from like people over 100,000. Then the people that are over 200, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then you're like Mr. Beast, and he's got like 315 million. Like,
that's
Jesus.
crazy.
Yeah,
that's so nuts.
That's
he's, you know what? Anybody that wants to be good on YouTube, like I know he's in a lot of heat right now.
Of course, he's on the top. Everyone wants you gone when you're on the top.
Oddly enough, anybody that wants to get good at YouTube, you should find interviews of him, because he understands the business of you. Like, he is not just a goofy dude making silly videos. No. Like he gets the business of what gets people to watch. He understands the psychology of what motivates all of this, the YouTube and all of that. Like, he has a mind for this business, and it's not luck with him. And I always used to think like, oh, what a goofy, he just gives money away, whatever. And I started watching interviews with him, and he talks with, like Think Media, or gosh, what are the 2 guys that do the interviews?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he talks with those people, and he is, I mean, he eats, sleeps, and breathes YouTube.
Yeah, so that's all he does. Yeah,
right. And he gets it.
And it's not overnight success. He's been doing it for like 10 years. He's like 25. He started when he was like 13 or something like that. Like 12 years he's been doing it.
Yeah. And it was a lot of trial and error. Like, I've heard him talk about that, where, hang on just one second. Hey.
Sorry, there's a casserole out there with oatmeal, baked oatmeal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're good. We got it's Wednesday. We're doing leftovers tonight, and they're checking to see if there's certain leftovers that's going to be for a different meal.
I gotcha.
But yeah, he's good. Like I said, I know a lot of people, there's drama with him, and I don't know, there's stuff going on, but he gets it. And you're absolutely right. Like, you have to find the balance of it. That is well, he's a bad example for that because he does. He's 24 hours. He's ate up with it. But
He doesn't have a
I
family.
think that
His family is YouTube. You know what I mean?
that's the thing. Yeah, he doesn't have a wife, doesn't have kids. I mean, you're absolutely right. Like his channel is his baby. That's a very good way to put it. And it's like you said, you got to take the weekends off. You got to take time off. I don't have a set day off like you do, but I do kind of toward the weekend. I don't work as much, or I'll get up like early on Saturday and get some work done before my kids get up and everything. And then once they're up and milling about, I kind of step away from the desk and unless I've worked myself into a corner, I have a real bad crunch or something, and then I need to get it done. But that's when I'm the least happy. And I notice that I start to resent making the videos, and I can hide it because I'm in the editing bay, but you have nothing to hide behind, right? Which
No.
I think is really impressive because you just have to stand up for 3 hours. And if you're agitated or you start to resent your own audience because you feel like they're making you start to get warped and feel like I have to be here for you people, and that'll come across. So
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
you gotta guard yourself. Putting up your own guardrails and that self-discipline that's hard. That takes work because you could grow if you did it on Fridays and Saturdays. Saturday's a big day for streaming.
Yep.
You could be more successful if you stream on Saturday.
If I just do one
But
extra hour a day, it could. Yeah.
exactly, and there's a cost associated with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just yell at my chat when there's people being idiots. That's just
Yeah, but that's what I like about your show is that you're not glazing the people. Like the people get rowdy in chat, and you're like, shut up, like you're being stupid. And that honesty, I think, is what it's what keeps people coming back.
You see what you just did, Greg? Now look at all turn. He's saying, "Yeah, 30, you're here for us." You see what you just did? No,
You
I'm
belong
not
to the
all
people.
turn. You're here for me. Okay. I would love to
I'm
do.
the prize.
This is what I want to do. Like what we're doing right now. I just want to interview. I want to interview, because when I was in the film industry, I had to do a lot of interviews with celebrities and CEOs of companies and different things. And sometimes there's a producer there. Sometimes it was just me as the camera guy asking the questions and stuff like that and getting to know the
Sure.
people. And this is what I want to do. This right here is what I want to do. I want to interview YouTubers, because you said it earlier, and this is why I said I love that you said it. Was I don't know if you heard me say that, but you said you love learning things. You love learning something new. My
Yeah.
motto is you got to learn something new every day, otherwise you're not living, right?
Yeah,
And
agree.
even if I know everything that you're saying about YouTube here, there's might be something that you say that I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that, right? And that's what I like sitting down with people and talking about YouTube. That's why I like talking about people's family and balance, because I don't know everything, right? And obviously I'm not. When I say I'm not successful on YouTube, as the metrics, I'm not successful on YouTube. But for me, I'm happy with my channel the way it is and the way it's growing. But I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. I love talking to my chat. That we've been doing it for about a month, where I can pop them up. Like, here, I'll just take someone's comment and just bring it up. Like, yeah, 30, you work for us. It just pops up on the screen. Like, I love that, because now the people that are in my channel know that, hey, he's talking to me. He's interacting with me, and I'm giving
Exactly.
something. These other channels, where obviously don't get me wrong, I would love if you watch you ever see like Neurotic, or you see other people out there where they're just constantly reading super chats and people are just throwing money at them as their stuff, because their channels are so big, they can't talk to their chat like that, right? I don't know if I ever want to be that big. Don't get me wrong. A part of me is like, yeah, I would love if people just kept giving me super chats.
Yeah,
like, who wouldn't?
money would be great.
Right. But at the same time, do you lose the essence of what you're doing, or do you evolve, and does your chat evolve with you? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like, where do you see yourself, or where do you see your channel when you hit 100,000? Like, do you want to still keep making the same content that you're making, or do you want to kind of adapt as you go? Like, maybe you want to, maybe the end goal is not really to talk about movies, it's to talk about something else. But once you get to a certain echelon in YouTube, you don't have to worry about putting the tags. You don't have to worry about slotting yourself in. Like, you make a video, 20,000, 30,000 people are coming to watch that video anytime, no matter what you do.
I think that I enjoy talking about entertainment, because it is not as serious, and so I can have fun with it. I think that's something that my wife and I, we discuss every video, and like after the fact we kind of debrief it. She likes to say, like, every video is a data point. how they perform is interesting. We like watching the performance of them. What do people click on? What do they not like? What do they comment about? What do they not comment about? You know, what engages people? What do I seem like I'm enjoying? Like all of it is just that it's a very fun analysis that you get to perform with every video. And what I am noticing is these most recent videos are doing really well, and I think it's because I'm not trying to. Well, in the Acolyte way, I was being analytical, but I'm having more fun than I've ever had, and I'm keeping that in mind with the script writing of just like tell some jokes, be goofy, mix them up, tell some deep cut jokes, but also just throw out a stupid pun, like keep the mix of the
Right.
jokes and have a good time, and I enjoy that, and I think the subject matter allows for that. Like I could not be talking about politics and be silly and have a good time and make these weird jokes. I couldn't be talking about really, I don't think I could be talking about books and do the same thing. So I think as the channel grows, I will still stay centered around entertainment. I don't know if I'll start to mix in more topics. I don't know if that'll work. I'll probably experiment with that because I get restless and I just want to be talking about other things sometimes. I get excited. Or we've talked about maybe a second channel, but
Hmm.
I think I would need to either be full time or the primary channel would need to have enough money that I could pretty much just pay for a lot of the services I would pretty much just need to film it and hand it off to somebody else and be like, you need to edit this and you need to make a thumbnail and
Yeah.
I'll approve it and that'll be that. That's the thing that I've noticed with YouTube is once they kind of peg you as something, that's
what
your something. And you can curve it, but you have to do it real slow. Like I think the biggest productivity guy, Ali Abdal, is pretty much just like a YouTube coach at this point. And he talks about that you can change up what you do. That's what he did. He started out he was a student at Cambridge. He was a medical student and he was making videos about how to get into medical school. And then he slowly transitioned into productivity and life advice and then kind of has now become that plus I'll teach you how to make YouTube videos sort of thing. And he talks about that you can kind of but it has to be a very slow
Right.
and you have to find topics that relate and it's kind of a lily pad operation. I don't see myself wanting to do that because like I said, I really do enjoy talking about movies and shows. I would like to add more video game stuff in, but it's so competitive right now that I don't think I have time for it.
Hmm.
So that might be something that I would love to be able to do, like maybe stream games, or I don't think that I could do like full reviews, but I would like to make, because I'm most passionate about video games. I like TV, I like movies, I like entertainment, but the number one thing that I love is video games, but I don't have the time to invest into getting involved in that.
Well, you could do what I do, where you just talk about the news stories, right? And with your
Yeah.
knowledge, with your knowledge of it, you could do something like that for your second channel. I would recommend everything that I do the opposite of what I do on YouTube, right? Because I have multiple channels. I have my 30 and Still Gaming channel, which was this, but it was more gaming centric. And then I was like, you know what? We tried to rebrand that channel. It bombed. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start, instead of 30 and Still Gaming, I'll do 30 NSG. Instead of saying, and Still Gaming, it's news, shows, and gaming. That's what the NSG stands for. And then I made Nerding with 30 because I love talking about films. I mean, it's my passion. I love that, but I also love video games. And the hardest part for me is that chat was in the beginning of this channel, which is almost 2 years old now. Is that well, actually, it's a year and a half, but that the console wars, and we'll move away from YouTube and stuff. We'll start talking about video games. The console wars is that there's always the Sony ponies, there's always the Xbox that they always try to take control of your chat, right?
Ugh.
And it took a while because people wanted to label me as, oh, you're an Xbox because you have an Xbox. I'm like, no, that's not why I have an Xbox. But by all means, go ahead and tell me what I am. I just love talking about video games, and I also hate corporations that try to put the greed and stuff that they do, right? And
Yes.
that's why when your video came up of the Star Wars one, where the $130, typical trash type stuff, right? Now I'm playing Star Wars Outlaws. I don't know. Have you played it?
I have not.
Okay.
I am currently playing Dark Souls 2 and Black Myth Wukong and probably this weekend I'm gonna throw Astro, but there's only so long that I can not buy that game. Like I'm gonna
It looks
get that
great.
one.
It looks great.
It looked like so much fun. The first one was fun, and the first one was like a tech demo. Like it's so funny that people love. I love that game. My kids love that game, and they made that purely to just show off what the PS5 could do. But I am not.
Oh, it's the same thing
It's
that
not even that.
Hellblade 2 did.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's not the success story they were hoping for. I don't I don't hate Ubisoft stuff, but it's just not my like. I feel about Ubisoft games the same way I feel sort of about like football games. Like it's not fair to say that I hate Ubisoft games
It's
because
the
I
same.
don't hate football games.
Yeah.
I just don't. It's not my thing. Their
Same.
brand of open world. There's a very specific feel to Ubisoft for like the last 10 years, and it's just I'm not interested in it, and that's fine. I think they have some scummy practices, but the game itself just if it weren't for them as a company, I don't think that Outlaws would be as hated. And I think it's the combination of the pricing stuff that they're doing, the comments that their CEO makes, and then their streaming side or their subscription side guy makes, and all that. And it's all of those things combined with the fact that Outlaws looks so average, and I think that's what got people really riled up. But you've been playing it. Are you liking it? Like, are you actually having a good time with it, or is it okay? Like, what's your read on it?
No, I'm actually having a blast with it. But then again, I'm a 46-year-old man who grew up on Star Wars and massive. I play a lot of Division 2. Me and Sarge play it, and we absolutely love their level design, like their detail on DC and New York, the way they did this stuff. I'm like, man, there's no other company that puts the detail that they put. Like they tell a story, like with just stuff they've just put in the world. And what Massive did with Pandora, Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, and now with Outlaws, I just wish they let this game cook a little bit more, man. Like I speak all the time on my channel that it takes like 3 to 5 years to make a game, but they're releasing it at 3 and they're fixing it over the next 2 years to 5 instead of, work on it for 5 and then release it and then let it be. But I actually am really enjoying Outlaws. Now I'm playing on Xbox, playing on the Xbox Series X, and I had one major glitch, which wasn't actually a major glitch. It was I knocked a guy out, and his voice was still like he was still alive, and he was like talking, and it was freaking me out because I was like, didn't I take him out and stuff? But for the most part, the world itself is amazing, but the mechanics of the game, okay, the stealth missions, the shooting, and the speeder bike, okay, these things are pushed out the door before they were done. And I said it, and people are like, "There's no way. This is an 8 out of 10. This is a 9 out of 10 game." I'm like, you guys are crazy. I was like, look, you like what you like, but be honest with yourself. Like, this is not that type of game. And even now, Ubisoft's coming out going, yeah, we know there's problems. Like they're changing the stealth missions early on. They've said that the face for the animations for her is messed up. It's like I'm not full of shit. You know what I mean? Like I'm telling you my honest opinion. Like this game is good, but it's not great. It's not a bad game. It's just mid. It's just in that middle lane where if you're a Star Wars fan, I would say pick it up on a sale. Or pick it up now. If you're a huge Star Wars fan, you would have a good time with it. But if you're out there just trying to fill a void of, well, I got nothing to play and I want to play that, don't waste your time. Like I didn't pay for it. I paid $18 for the month for Ubisoft because that's what they want me to pay, right?
Right.
That's the value for their game. I tell people all the time, they want you to stay in that service for at least 3 months, right? 4 months, really. That's why they have 2 DLCs coming out, right? So they think that game is worth $54. Okay, that's what they think it's worth. Okay, and yet they're nickel and diming you with keeping you in the hope that you'll forget that you have a subscription model for that time, or you're here for Outlaws, but while you're waiting for the next DLC, maybe you want to play a little bit of Shadows. And when you're waiting for Shadows to be, maybe play Riders Republic or play one of the other games that we have, Skull and Bones or whatever. Right? That's what they want you to do.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's, what you're saying about the game is what I've heard echoed elsewhere. And I think that's what it is that I don't dislike Star Wars. I think it's a lot of fun. I like it in general, but I don't ever call myself like a Star Wars fan because I feel like that denotes a level of excitement that I don't want to misrepresent. Like I'm so into it. And I think when people say they're Star Wars fans, like they're really huge fans. And I don't want that. I don't want to portray myself that way. And then people are like, wow, you're really into it. and then they find out that I'm not, right? I'm a normie when it comes to Star Wars. So, but I've heard that same thing. Like I get a lot of my reviews from Skill Up. It's a really big channel, and I find that his tastes in gaming, I think we're about the same age, and his tastes in games typically mirrors my own. So I find, and I think that's important with a reviewer, is you just find somebody that likes the stuff you like and doesn't like the stuff you don't like, so that way their opinion means more, because the things that they put value on are the things you put value on, right? So you're gonna get more value out of that. And he said the exact same thing. He was like, I love Star Wars, and walking around the towns, getting the information, playing the little mini games, the gambling, like the feel. He kept saying that, like the vibe of it is great,
So good.
top notch
It is.
Star Wars vibe. It gives you the feeling of being a scoundrel in the Star Wars universe. And he's like, everything else is not great.
Right.
Not
the
great.
game itself, like the
Right.
mechanics of the game, it's like, what happened?
Yeah.
They made it's a stealth game. Ubisoft is known for stealth.
Right.
Maybe not massive is not, but Ubisoft, like, pick up the phone and go, hey, I know you made Assassin's Creed 27 of them. You think you can come on over and check out what we did right or wrong with this stealth stuff? It's amazing to me that a company that has this many stealth games brought a stealth game out, and that's the worst part of the game.
And I think I've seen a lot of gameplay, because I was watching a lot of, in the video that the recent one, and you were talking about that one, obviously there's a lot of bug montages. Those are hilarious to watch. But
they're fantastic to watch.
I also did watch Rad Brad play like an hour of the game, and I watched a lot of it, and what struck me about it, and I heard this in a different review, so kind of echoed what I was already thinking, was it feels too much like a video game, which is a dumb complaint when you're talking about a video game, but all games are video games, but some of them feel more gamey than others.
Yeah.
And I was watching this segment. He was climbing to the top of this like fan tower. Like there was some part, somebody says, "Hey, go get a part," and it's at the top of this tower, and he has to climb. And the path to climb up was so obviously laid out, and the fans, obviously you can climb on the grates of the fans, but then between fans there's a bar, and it's like, why is there a bar on the wall between the
Because you
fans?
get
Well, it's
blown
so
out.
that a character can grab them and climb up. Like it's design choices like that sort of remind you that you're playing a video game, and it just feels too much like, well, games have climbing, so we're going to put some climbing here.
Right.
And look, there's a yellow bar on the wall, so you climb across that. And it's that kind of stuff that I saw that I was like, it just turns me off. And I have heard your sentiment from so many people that they just say, like, it's obviously, it's not, you can't say it's shit. Like, that's not honest.
Well, yeah, right. You could, but
it's okay.
It's disingenuous. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very okay.
Gollum is shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like King
Red
Kong
shit, right?
Islands is shit. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, it's very all right. And yeah, everybody's kind of saying the same thing. They're like, the feeling is great, the vibe is great, and then when you actually have to like engage with the gameplay, then it feels so underbaked.
Yeah.
And like you said, 2 years from now, when they fix it and it's $20, then I might pick it up. It might be a super fun game.
Perfect game at that point. It'll be perfect. It's what Homelander would say. Perfect. Yeah. Right. So what you're playing Black Myth Wukong. Are you I said it correct, chat. Wukong. I said it correctly. What do you think about it? Do you like it? Are you having an issue? You're playing on PlayStation, right? Because
I'm playing that one on PlayStation. You know what's so dumb is I was thinking about, I know we're going to talk about the PS5 Pro. I should be playing more on this computer because I upgraded this computer for editing purposes, but this thing could function as a great gaming. I don't know. For some reason, I never think of myself as a PC gamer. I've been playing on console so long that I sort of have that identity sort of subconsciously, like, well, I play my games on console. I don't even think to buy things on Steam. It's an odd mentality, but I am playing that one. That is one that I think is the other direction, where people are like, this game is a masterpiece. And oddly enough, I can't even believe I'm going to say this, IGN was spot on. They gave it an 8 out of 10, and I think that's exactly what it is. I think it's a very good game. I wouldn't say good or average. I would say very good, but I would not say great, and I wouldn't say perfect. I think that it's very good. It's very fun. There are some critiques that I have about it. I think that it's a little... It's it's not that the linearness of the first chapter is a problem. It's that there's a weird difficulty spike. There's some weird physics stuff that you run into. Like there's a little polish that needs to go into it. I'm into chapter 2 now, which does open up a little bit more, gives you a little more freedom to move around and upgrade your character in kind of ways that you want to. But there are a handful of things about it that I think they need to polish up on. I know it's a small studio. I think it might be their first game or their second game or something. So there are also some, and this is a dirty word that people bring up to us. There's some accessibility issues that like
In what way?
I play on the console and I play on my big TV. I think it's like 55 or 60 inches or whatever, and I'm across the room. So I sit over my bed and I play on my TV against the wall. So like I need text to be bigger, and I like it when a game will allow you to put a box behind the text or something. And it's little things like that when you're used to them and a game doesn't have it, and then you're like, really? I feel like this is really basic functionality that we've come to expect now as gamers. So yeah, it's just little stuff. There nothing about it is horrible, but there are enough small little things that add up where I'm like, it's an 8.5, and I'm having a great time. But I think the critiques are valid. You know,
That's where I'm at with it. Would you say Wukong is? We always say on my channel, make a game, sell a game. Did they make a game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and what's funny is the drama that surrounded it with the whole, whatever who wrote that they were sexist or whatever. Like that was really funny because it just threw into such sharp contrast that they really did just make a game. So like they obviously were like, we heard you like God of War and we heard you like Dark Souls, and we also heard that you love this this myth of Sun Wukong. So we combined those three things and we made this game. Here you go. And it's I think the number one thing that I think is praiseworthy about it is the art direction is fantastic, and that is it's beautiful looking. And I have a photo mode addiction. Like my old PS4 is full of. I spent more time taking pictures as Spider-Man than I did actually playing. And this one has a fun photo mode. Or like Ghost of Tsushima, I spent equal amounts of time actually playing that game and setting up sweet shots of the landscapes or fights and trying to pause them right in the middle or whatever and get an awesome picture and then take it from every angle and in black and white and in vibrant and like it was so stupid.
What do you have more of? Pictures of Spider-Man 2 or your kids? Which one?
Spider-Man.
Oh, Spider-Man. All right.
No, I spent so much time on that. So I'm doing the same thing, and the art direction of Wukong is really really fun. But it's you're absolutely you're spot on that they said, hey, this is a popular genre, and we're going to try to execute on that as best we can. And I think they did a great job at it. It's a very very fun game.
All right, so the PlayStation 5 Pro just got announced, right? You're a PlayStation guy, right? Do you own an Xbox and PlayStation, or are you just PlayStation?
I own them, but then whose they are is a funny question. So
you paid for them; they're all yours.
That's right; they are all mine. So the PS5 is mine, and the last Christmas I think we bought the Xbox Series S. For the kids downstairs.
How dare you, Greg? How could you buy the S for your kid? How dare you? That's what my kid plays on. He loves it.
You know what's
they don't
so
know the difference. Does your kid ever complain about frames per second or? I'm
actually really glad that I bought that one because they just play so much Fortnite and Minecraft. So like, who cares what the graphic fidelity even is capable of because they play games that don't even take advantage of it. But no, the Xbox is downstairs. They play with that one, and then the Switch floats around. They play with that one too. So pretty much the PlayStation is the one that I mess around with, or I have Xbox Game Pass on my PC, so I'll download some stuff from time to time there.
Real quick before we get to the PlayStation 5 Pro, what was your first system as a kid?
I think my first system was a Nintendo, and then we had a Super Nintendo that I played a whole bunch with. That was kind of
original Nintendo NES, right?
Yeah, that was the first one that we had, and then the Super. But that was like a family, like a shared thing. I think the first console that I really felt like was really mine was my PS1. That was the one that my brothers didn't really play with, and they kind of grew up and they weren't really into games. And that was the one that that's the one that's on my set with my PSM sticker on it, and that felt like that was my console.
what is your favorite game and why isn't it Mass Effect 2?
Mass Effect 2 is a go. My favorite game of all time is Final Fantasy Tactics, and I don't even.
Tactics. Really?
Tactics is fantastic. I like the story of that one. I sunk so many hours into playing that. I have run a main character 3 or 4 times through that game. I have done a magic run. I've done a ninja run. I've done a straight up knight dragoon run. That I don't know. I don't know what it was about that game when I was a kid. It was that and Final Fantasy VII, and they grabbed a hold of me, and I played so much of them, and yeah, I continue to love that game, and I don't know. I think it's the nostalgia.
Real quick, I gotta say thanks to YouTube Lurker for the 20 months. I don't know why it says new member, Lurker, but it's 20 months on the thing. It says new member on the screen. I don't know why, but thank you much. Not only for the 50 gifted bomb earlier, but also for your continued support with your own membership. Appreciate that. What was going to ask? I asked you what you get Final Fantasy because you're.
Well, then you asked me, so you got to answer the question. Well, you said Mass Effect 2. What is it about Mass Effect 2 that makes it the greatest game?
I don't know what it is. Okay, so I didn't own Mass Effect.
You hate that question. Did you know you love it, and then people are like, "Why?" And you're like, "I don't know. I just do."
No,
like,
I'll tell you. I'll tell you why. Yeah, no, I didn't play Mass Effect 1. I didn't know Mass Effect existed. And then I was playing on the 360, and GameFly was out, and I was like, oh, let me try. I got like a pamphlet to try out GameFly, so I tried it, and I was like, oh, what's this Mass Effect 2? I was like, all right, so I got Mass Effect 2 in the mail, and I put it in, and I was like, wait a minute.
And you saw Miranda, and you were
right.
like,
I was like, this is amazing graphics, first off, right? And I was watching Chuck at the time. Also, you ever watch the movie, the show Chuck with
Oh yes,
yeah.
Oh, we love Chuck. That is such a great movie or show.
Show, yeah. So I was watching that, and then she was in Mass Effect 2. Maybe that was one of the reasons I liked it. But I stopped playing, and I was like, hold on a second. And then I went out and rented Mass Effect 1, played Mass Effect 1, didn't really like the gameplay style of it and stuff, right? And then all of a sudden, I finished Mass Effect 1, and then I went to Mass Effect 2, and I was like, wait a minute, I can bring my character over, and like I'm attached now, right? Because now everything, all the choices I made in Mass Effect 1 came into Mass Effect 2, and Mass Effect 2, it just, for me, was like I felt like I was Captain Kirk on my own ship, okay? First of all, have you played Mass Effect series?
Just 2 and 3. I didn't play 1. I have a legendary.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. I don't know. I haven't gone back.
Yeah, so yeah, I felt like Captain Kirk. I love the story between your crewmates. I love just everything about Mass Effect, the graphics, the gameplay, the I was just like, and then at the very end of the game, I won't spoil it for anybody, but I made a choice, and I lost my entire crew, basically, right? All the people that I like attached with, I was happy to be with. I brought them on that last mission, and I lost everybody, and I was just like, I was sad. I was like, this is a video game. I was like, and I'm feeling sad about these people and it just clicked with me. And then they made Mass Effect 3, and I was like, it's not as good, but still good. But Mass Effect 2 to me is like one of the best games. Then Red Dead 2. I love Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't know what it is. It's like I like these slow, open world, story rich games, and maybe that's because I'm from the film side. I just love when they do all the cutscenes, and the acting is just fantastic in some of these things, and that's why Mass Effect is probably it could be swapped out with a couple, like, I love Spider-Man 1 on the PlayStation. I thought that was a fantastic game as well. So I can rotate them, but Mass Effect 2 I think is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. I think it's that writing. It's like you actually felt something for the characters, and I've heard that about Red Dead too. That people just talk about how like the whole world just feels alive, and it doesn't. Oddly, there's a lot of it that doesn't feel like a video game. It feels like you're very immersed in it. It feels natural, I guess would be a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Like it's, but the old BioWare at that time, that I think that's why I'm mad about the new Veilguard coming out, because I was alive and like in real time playing Knights of the Republic 1 and 2, playing Jade Empire, playing those Mass Effect games. Like when BioWare was the gold standard of writing in video games. And I think some people don't even remember or don't put together that at that time, video games and writing were not really
No,
It wasn't. It
it wasn't
wasn't
what it
such
is
a pairing.
today. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, video games early on were very much just okay. A thing is moving, and you hit things, or something explodes, or whatever. Like that's. And some people still kind of had that conception of video games, but BioWare, I think, was one of the first at that time that was really focusing on having like giving you this experience, this emotional experience. You're absolutely right. Like Knights of the Old Republic gave me that as well. That there were decisions that I made. I remember having an evil playthrough, and I'm like, oh, I'll just do the evil stuff, and I felt bad. Like the writing and the acting was so good that I actually felt something while playing that, and BioWare sort of pioneered that a little bit. Like you go back in video game history, that's what people are like, why is Final Fantasy VII so? Why is it so big? And it's like, well, it's because it's one of the first times that you had this massive, epic, real story with all these real characters, and it was just a big leap as far as story and writing in a game, and it wasn't just sprites moving around attacking and stuff. So yeah, the old BioWare is like I still mourn for that, and that's why when I see the mess of purple that is Veilguard, I'm just like, ugh, it just doesn't even look good. I'm not excited.
It literally looks like it's completely like just rebooted at that point. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't look anything like the rest of the Dragon Age stuff. I don't know. It's frustrating at times. It's like
Yeah,
they don't know what they have. They wait so long to do something, and then they change it along the way. And obviously,
right.
it does look like there's some sort of during the process. Obviously, they removed people from that game to move them over to Anthem, to move them, you know what I mean, and then move them back. And then they were using are they still using the Frostbite engine for that, or did they change it back to?
You know what? I don't know. I haven't looked into that. I remember they said Dreadwolf was going to be like it was going to be more of an online type.
Yeah,
thing,
it was
and then
supposed to be like
Andromeda
Anthem. They were using the
later.
Frostbite engine for that. They forced them to use that for Anthem and for Dreadwolf, and then all of a sudden they went back to the drawing board. That's why I have no faith in this. This might be a great game, like if it comes out 2 years from now or a year from now, because I don't think it's going to be complete when it comes out.
No, I think it's going to be, it's going to be the same story that we've seen so many times where you're absolutely right. You're like, wow, a year from now, 2 years from now, this is going to be great. I can see the bones of this is going to be fun. As soon as you fix everything, it's going to be
right.
And I'll come back. Let me know when you're done. And you know what's so sad is that like nobody's immune from it. And that's why it's so hard to get hyped these days, because even studios that you think you can really trust, like CD Projekt Red, you like the whole cyberpunk thing was very disillusioning for a lot of people, myself included, because I was hyped. I was so hyped for that game. Like the Witcher games are fantastic. Witcher 3, a short list of greatest games of all time, fantastic game. And then they were like, we're doing a new thing, cyberpunk, it's going to be so huge, there's so much to do, there's all this stuff, and there was this big marketing campaign, and I was totally in it. And I was lucky because I think I was super busy at work at that time, so I didn't buy it because I just knew like I don't have time for this. And then it came out, and I started hearing all of the, it won't play on PlayStation 4, it won't even run, like so many lies, all that kind of stuff. And then they had to, and then here we are with whatever Sons of Liberty or something of Liberty. 9 months, 12 months later, they fixed it, and I'm told that it's a lot of fun now.
But it's like 3 years after the game came out.
Yeah,
Phantom Liberty, and then they
you had to bake it, and it's just
yeah. Everybody talks about No Man's Sky, like, oh, it's greatest comeback. Sure,
yeah,
but it also
you shouldn't have had it. You shouldn't have had that comeback.
Right. There shouldn't be a comeback. It should just be the game. Make a game, sell a game, and that's my biggest thing. I was talking to my chat this year. Right, some of the games that came out, regardless, not live service, like actual games, right? Like make a game, sell a game. Stellar Blade came out, done. Right, like that's it. Black Myth Wukong came out, done. What's another one? Dragon's Dogma 2, done. Now, yes, there are bugs and issues with some of these games and stuff like that, but they make a game, sell a game. It's not a live service game. You're not getting like a season pass, and the game, doesn't end, and then all of a sudden you have to wait 6 months before the next expansion comes out. I mean, even Starfield. I love Starfield. I have 200 hours into the game, but it's like Shattered Space is 1 year after. People paid for that content a year ago, and now it's 13 months later, and they're finally getting it. And it's like, how are people okay with this? It's the only industry that people are okay, like investing into a video game with no investment back at them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and you were saying on stream the other day that like they're paying more for less early. Like they're paying full price up front. And this is you mentioned this, that it used to be when you pre-ordered a game you got a discount. like that was the selling point was, hey, this game is $60, but it's 55 if you put some faith in us, right?
Right.
You get $10 off, whatever. And then the day of launch, okay, now you all waited, now you got to pay full price. That used to be the selling point. And now they're charging full price for pre-orders for promises. And I got burned on that with Borderlands 3. I was so excited. I loved Borderlands 2. I think that I still do. I mean, that game's fantastic. Everything about it is fantastic. So I got hyped. And I bought the ultimate super mega package for Borderlands 3, pre-ordered the DLC before I even know what it was going to be. The game was very underwhelming. I haven't even finished 2 of the DLCs because they were so underwhelming. And it's you're absolutely right. You're paying full price for a product that you haven't even seen yet. There is no other industry where you would do that. That's crazy.
Right. Well, I got burned on Division 1. Division 1 was the only game I got the season pass before it all came out. And then they kind of just limped out of the starting gate, right? Because they made all their money up front, and they're like, "We'll get to it when we get to it." And I was just like, "Well, that's not going to work for me," right? So I boycotted Gearbox, and I love Borderlands 2. Me and Sarge are playing through it. Sarge's a little upset tonight because we were supposed to do the bunker tonight, and instead I'm doing the podcast. But so blame Greg, all right, Sarge, blame Greg.
Sorry. That is
yeah,
bad too, because Borderlands 2 is so good. That's another one with good writing. Like that's people talk about like what are good villains. Like that's Handsome Jack should be studied for how to write a villain. That's phenomenal.
Tiny Tina and Handsome Jack are in the same game, and she's a fantastic character as well, right? Like, but I boycotted them at that time because of other things outside of gaming, what they've done. So I was just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I try to tell people, and my chat, obviously spend your money how you want to spend your money, but I don't feel good if I don't tell people. Like I told people, stay away from Skull and Bones. I was like, you're gonna get that game. It's gonna be on sale. It went on sale like 3 weeks after it came out. It went to like half off, right? Like Ubisoft on their own site gives it for like $30 right now. And I'm not trying to tell people to, like buy what you want to buy, waste your money and your time on what you want, but don't come back and bitch about something when it doesn't work and be like, yeah, this is not working. Be like, well, I told you so, type of thing.
Right.
So
well, and like, I mean, how many of us need to buy a game right now? I mean, like, I don't know about you, but I literally have probably 200 games, like, because I've had PlayStation Plus for a long time, and I keep an Xbox Game Pass subscription. So, like, I have these 2 subscriptions. I could be playing so many games right now. There is not a single game, unless it's FromSoft, that I need to buy the day that it comes out. Like, you just don't.
Right.
And with the history of how games are, you're absolutely right. Like, don't whine that it was broken. You bought it day one. You didn't need to. You could have waited 6 months and saved, and then during that 6 months, what you would have been playing something else. You would have found. So we all have
definitely would have found
backlogs
something
a mile long. Like, yeah, you're right. Like but people they have this weird FOMO. Like, I have to play this game the day it drops. And if it's a multiplayer like Helldivers, I got it. I get the hype on Helldivers 2. Like, it was a thing. That was a social movement. That was a thing. You wanted to join in and be a part of that. But single player game,
right?
Who cares? Who cares when you pick that up?
Yeah, most people don't even want to pick it up because they don't want to get spoiled, so they stop watching streamers that are playing the story content anyway, right? They're like, yeah, I'll see it when it's done because I don't want to get spoiled. And it's like, okay, well, you could have just waited. And then I love the people that buy it 3 days, 4 days early access, and they work a full-time job, and they don't play it, or they play it for like an hour or two in their 4 days of early access. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, you got an extra 6 hours out of it.
Woo!
You paid $40.
Yeah. Yeah, I jokingly said that. Wouldn't it be funny if, like, since we're gonna go talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro, wouldn't it be funny if PlayStation 5 Pro came out and they're like, yeah, it's $700, but if you get it 4 days early, $820.
People would do it. That's what you said it. That is why these companies do it. They wouldn't do it if it didn't make money, and suckers keep falling for this. When Diablo Immortal was out, there was that news story about the guy that spent $500,000 and then he couldn't matchmake with anybody because he was so. You remember that?
Yeah,
that he was so far outranked.
He paid himself out of the game. He couldn't play. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, when you really step back and think about that, that guy spent $500,000. Was it $500,000 or was it $100,000? What was it? Do you remember the number?
I believe it was $500,000 or something like that.
That's what I thought.
Chat, Krebsy's good at this. Krebsy, do you remember what that guy spent on Diablo Immortal? I'll look it up real fast.
And he eventually priced himself out, but along the way, he had to have run into people who had spent $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. So
Crazy.
a handful of people spent millions of dollars, and that is why they do it. That's why these companies wail, because you'll have a handful of people that will do that crap, and then this is where we're at, because we have these half-baked games that are just there to nickel and dime you to death, and people continue throwing the nickels and dimes, and so then it's going to be quarters, and then
Right.
started with that damn horse
Armor. Yeah,
and
started with horse
here
armor.
we
And here
are.
we are. Real quick, Lurker, before I did a super chat. Final Fantasy Tacticals is the best game ever, released on
Yes, it
PlayStation
is.
1, perfected on the PSP. Thanks for the $5. Appreciate that. So I'm not going to put words in your mouth. You watched, because yesterday you called and you're like, let's do a test. And I was like, I don't want to talk about
Yeah.
anything. I was like, we'll do it tomorrow. I was like, and you didn't know what they announced. I was like, just go watch it. And so now I want to hear what your thoughts are on the PlayStation 5 Pro for what they showed and the price.
I mean, I think I have the same question that everybody else has, and that is, who is this for? Who is going to buy this thing? I'm so confused as to not only the everything's separate, like the a la carte thing is just insulting, that it's $700, and that's just the base model, that if you want a disk drive, it's 80. If you want their pro controller, that's 200 or 250 or whatever. And I've heard complaints about that thing. I am so confused as to who is going to buy this thing. And because I was writing down some notes about this, because I was kind of doing some calculations, because I watched their presentation and I thought it was first of all, it was very enlightening that they admitted that more people prefer frame rate over graphical fidelity.
Three quarters of the player base that are playing right now want performance mode over fidelity. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm one of them. Like, so as I said, I've always done console gaming. I've never had a PC that's powerful enough to really like max out settings. So I had never seen, until I got my original PS5, I had never really seen. I'd never played games at 60 FPS or higher. So I always thought, like, that's just something master race weirdos say, like, oh, frame rate. And I saw it, and I played a couple of games. There is a game that I really love to talk about called Control,
Okay.
because I love the world of that game, and it did a lot of really interesting, neat things, and it had the mode, and I was playing on PS5, and I was like, do you want the fidelity, or do you want the performance? And I thought, like, well, I want this thing to look pretty, because this is an interesting world that they've built. It's really cool looking. I love the atmosphere. I want to look great. And then whenever I tried to turn, it's like stuttering. There's this crazy motion blur, and I was like, oh, that looks hideous. It looks great if I'm standing still, and if I'm moving, it looks awful. And I switched over to, I want frame rate, and I've never looked back. I do it with every game. I did it one time with Elden Ring. I was like, I wonder how good this would look if I switched over to fidelity mode, and I did. And then again, it was the same thing where I suddenly was like, oh, 30 FPS sucks. I can't go back. I can't go back to that. It's like living in the Stone Age now. So I can see why anybody that's had the chance and has seen the difference, now you notice it. Whereas old games, I just don't think I knew what I was looking at. So I thought that was really interesting that they admitted to that everybody wants frame rate. And so that fueled more of my confusion, that if you have a bunch of people that own PS5s and they're choosing frame rate, they obviously don't really care that much about the graphics. And would it be cool to have both the graphics and I see the selling point that they're going for, but I just don't think a lot of people care that much. And they're, for $700, a lot of, myself included, I'm like, oh, that's okay. I'll live without the ray tracing. That's all right. Like, does it look cool? Yeah, it looks really cool.
Right.
But I can live without it. It's okay. The graphics are still good enough.
How does Nintendo get away with it? How does Nintendo get away with not hitting 60 frames, not having great visuals, but yet they just make good games. They just make good games.
They make good games. They have interesting mechanics. That is something that I think Xbox and PlayStation haven't really tried to do. PlayStation has tried to do it with their snow cone motion thing. It didn't, sometimes they don't pan out. But I think Nintendo has really fun games, and they come up with interesting hardware, and they have interesting ideas. Like the Switch is portable. You can just pick that up, and like the fact that you can have it on your TV and then take it out of the dock and it's already playing whatever you were looking at and you just walk away with it. That's such a cool concept. And whenever they announce the Switch 2 that has all of those things plus the graphics and the frame rate and everything, that's going to destroy Xbox and PlayStation. Like that's going to sell. You will not be able to find the next generation of Switch if they do like a Switch Pro or something. And and I think with Nintendo games, they have never attempted to go for good graphics. And so the expectation is just not there. Like Mario has never tried to look crisp. They've never tried to be like, oh, you can see the fibers on Mario's denim on his
look at his mustache. His mustache is so each individual hair on there.
Yeah. So nobody even expects it. And I think that we have gotten into, we try to push graphics in other areas. And I think that something that people are noticing, whether consciously or not, is they're starting to see that art direction matters more than graphics. And that is something that I think Ghost of Tsushima illustrates very well. That I do think it's good graphics. I think it's a fine looking game. I bet on the PS5 Pro or on a high PC, it probably looks even better. But the art direction in that game is amazing. It doesn't have to be the crispest graphics ever. It's beautiful. The way they structured it, the way the UI is laid out, it's gorgeous. And that's more important. And how a game feels, I hate to sound like I'm trying to be young, but the vibes are more important than the graphics.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think people are seeing that.
I have a different viewpoint. When they say 3/4 of the people, right? Obviously, they're only talking about the people that own the PlayStation 5 right now. And they're like, oh, well, the 3/4 of the population wants it in the performance mode. And I was like, what about the other 67 million people that haven't moved over from PlayStation 4 yet, right? That don't
I just
care.
learned that today. That's shocking.
That don't care about, because they didn't care about the frames. Otherwise, if they did, they would have gotten the PlayStation 5 by now, right?
Yes.
So,
and they're not lowering the price.
Right. So they've taken this number of 3/4 of the people in that 60 million population. And yeah, that might be true, but I believe that that's the minority, because the majority of the population of gamers don't care about the performance mode, right? Now, they're not lying about what they said. They're 100% true. Of the people that they're playing on PlayStation 5, 3/4 of them want to play performance mode. But the other 67 million that haven't upgraded yet to the PlayStation 5, and now they've priced it where, obviously, it used to be like the Apple mentality, right? You have the PlayStation, the other PlayStation now goes down, and this one comes into that spot of 500, and then the other PlayStation that people were waiting on would pick it up for like 350, 400 or whatever. But now they didn't do that. They raised it 200, took stuff away from it, right? And the presentation that they showed, you can't even tell. Most of the stuff, you didn't even know what they were showing you. You're like, oh, the ray tracing. Yeah. You're like, am I looking at the water? Am I looking at the banner? What am I looking at on this thing?
Right. When you put it on YouTube, like it gets compressed to hell. Yeah. Nobody could tell what was the difference. They were like, look at the side by side, and I watched it, and I was like, I don't.
There's the. Okay, thank you.
What am I looking at?
Yeah.
Well, they did the Ratchet and Clank. They were like, look at the people in the background. And I'm like, okay. I mean, that's cool that you zoomed in on it, and I can see the difference, but I'm 100% certain I would never care about that.
Some of the stuff they showed was actually worse on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Like if you go look at go back and look at the Spider-Man stuff. Okay, there's shadows in the background and stuff like that. That's blurry, and where it's not blurry on the other side, it's like I was like, what are you showing? What are you trying to tell me that? And then this is the best, my favorite part of the whole thing. What's his name? Mark Cerny. He said he does the side by side comparison of Last of Us 2, right? And they're running. He says, look how smooth it is on the PlayStation 5 Pro and how choppy it looks over on. And I'm like, that's your own product. You just told everyone that has a PlayStation 5 that they've been playing choppy this entire time.
It's, I'm with you. Like, I think that if they lowered the PS5, then I think there would be that, like the phone, I think is a great analogy, that when, the iPhone 15 comes out, people are like, okay, I'll wait a little bit. I just bought a phone last year. And then in a few months, they're like, oh, the iPhone 15 Pro S Ultra. And people are like, okay, well, it's been a little while. I guess I'll hit that one, and then the 16 will come out and they'll skip that. And then maybe they'll skip the 16 Ultra, Mega Ultra S, whatever. And they'll get the 17 and like you said, people stagger stuff with I found out today because I've been watching news about this. I was watching Bellular talk about it, and he mentioned that half of people still own PS4s. I was blown away by that. I had no idea. I genuinely thought we've been in this new generation for 3 or 4 years now. I really thought more people had made the move, and I am stunned to hear that 50% of PlayStation traffic is on PS4.
Yeah.
I never would have guessed a number that high.
Yeah, it's 60 because they sold like 122 million of PlayStation 4s, and 60 million bought this, and then now 67 are still left over on the other platform. And now
Yeah.
I don't know, because I'm in this situation where I don't have a PlayStation. I have a PlayStation 4, right? And I got the
Mhm.
PlayStation 4 Pro at the tail end of that generation, right? So I got it in like
Yeah.
right before Spider-Man came out. It was my family bought it for me for Christmas for 2018, right? And then obviously the new system came out in 2020. So I had it at the very tail end of before the new system came out. I don't care to get a PlayStation 5 because it's $500. And I was like, yeah, I could get
Right.
$500, but it's like, but why?
Yeah, why?
What?
Why would I want to do it?
Like
I mean, for me,
I
it was-
get it. Yeah, there's God of War and Ragnarok and Last of Us 2 and all this stuff, but it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but why do I need to upgrade right now if I had a PlayStation 5 to upgrade to the PlayStation 5 Pro? Or if I have a PlayStation 4, why would I spend $700 for the minute changes from the 5 to the 5 Pro?
right. Well, and I think like I had a PS4 original. I didn't buy the Pro on that one, and I'm not going to buy the PS5 Pro. Like I stick with the initial
The initial. Yeah.
the initial jump, right? And then I ignore the Pro version, or I mean twice or three times now they've done the launch and then the Pro, whatever. I assume that's going to keep going, but yeah, I mean, I guess they're I think part of it is the games. Like I do like third person action games. So the new God of War games, Demon Souls especially sold me on the PS5. Like I was really pumped. That was a day one release. That one really excited me because I'm a Souls fan and I didn't play Demon Souls, and it's kind of hard to find a copy of that these days. And you have to get a PS3 to play it because it wasn't PS4 backward compatible, which is a
Right.
whole other thing that I'm pissed at Sony about. But so that was exciting. That remake got me pumped about it. And God of War, there were some titles that I was really excited to play on PS5. But if you're not into those titles, if you're not into Horizon Forbidden West or whatever, and that's another thing that I've seen brought up is what are you going to play on this PS5 Pro? Like what's
The
coming
same
out?
games that you're playing on the PlayStation 5.
Right. That what was crazy about the presentation is they were like, look at how good these games look, and they're showing Ratchet and Clank from 3-4 years ago. They're showing Demon Souls from 3-4 years ago. They're showing these games that are 2-3-4 years old, and it's like, I guess I understand that they're, because I didn't realize the PS4 ownership was still so high. So maybe they're thinking we'll entice the PS4 owners to make the jump, and we'll show up because they maybe have never played these games. Maybe they've never played the new Ratchet and Clank or whatever it is.
But they weren't enticed to come over to the PlayStation 5 to begin with.
And that's exactly it. If they weren't enticed to come over, if they didn't want to spend $500,
Why would they spend
$700?
Yeah.
You know, and none of that even factors in. And something that I have not seen a lot of people talking about is, and maybe again because I already made the wrong assumption on the PS4 thing, so maybe I'm wrong on this, but I play my console on a television. I don't play it on a monitor.
Right.
And I think most people play their consoles on a television. And televisions do not generally have 120 hertz.
Correct.
So you got to buy a special, generally you pretty much need a QLED or an OLED, or you need a top of the line LCD television to get 120 hertz. Typically they're going to be 60, usually 30. 60 is becoming more standard for like flat screens and stuff, and you also have to have one that's got an HDMI 2.1 port. And that is something that I'm not seeing a lot of people talk about, where it adds even more expense. Like if you want to buy a PS5 Pro and you want 120 frames per second, which does look beautiful, you also need, you're gonna spend at least $1,200 on a television if you're playing on a television. And I believe that most console players it's in their living room, it's in their bedroom, it's a TV that's on the wall or their dresser or whatever. Right. And it's probably 50 inches, it's in somebody's bedroom, it's pretty big, right? Those things don't do 120 frames per second. and they oftentimes have bad input lag because they're not designed for gaming. They're designed for television, which is displayed at 24 frames per second. So why would Samsung or LG make a 120 hertz, 1 millisecond, input lag refresh? Why would they do that? Nobody's going to use that. Nobody's watching Netflix at 120 frames per second, right? That's a specialty application, and that's why you see monitors. They'll do it. They're cheaper. But I think that's going to be something that people are going to run into. And I'm sure you're going to see a lot of headlines about that, where people are going to buy the PS5 Pro. They're going to hook it up to their 4K LCD, which runs at 60 hertz. And they're going to be like, this doesn't look as good as I thought it would.
See, I don't even think they would complain. I think they'd be like, wow, it looks amazing. Because they honestly they wouldn't even know, because it's not they don't have a side-by-side comparison to compare to.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I think that's another thing that people aren't talking about with the cost, and so that makes the equation even dumber, because now you have a $700 console base price, $700 minimum. You need really a $1,200 television to display it properly. So now you're almost $2,000 deep into this thing if you want this console and you want the television to display it. $2,000 is going to get you one hell of a PC.
Hell of a rig.
Right?
Yeah.
And I understand the arguments for consoles. Like, I get it. Like, there are certain things about, like, people just don't want to do, or they don't use a computer very much. Until I started making videos, I didn't use a computer all that much. I just didn't really have much cause to. Like, I had a laptop and I would do, or I had a tablet that I would surf on or whatever. So I get that people don't have desktops because they just don't use them all the time, like you and I might. So I understand the convenience of a console, but when you're looking at a total package of $1,700, $2,000 for the console and the television, that's a weird. Like, think about who's going to buy that. Who has that kind of money, but also doesn't and cares a lot about graphics and wants to play games, but doesn't want to play them on PC, and doesn't already own a PS5. Like, they have that much money, but they don't already have a PS5.
Right.
And, like, to me, this is a very narrow customer base.
Very niche.
This is niche of the niche customers here. Like, it's super. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's a weird calculation.
There was analytics that came out today that said that they were analysts were saying that they were hoping to sell 13 million units by 2029. So they're averaging. They said by the end of this year they'll have 1.2 for the holiday season, and then for the remainder of the time it'll be like 2.6 million per year selling this right at the tail end. I don't know. I just look at this, and a lot of people, obviously, a lot of the YouTubers make the content because they just want to shit on one thing or the other to get the views. But I like literally look at it and go, well, who's this for, right? And I think who it's for is the niche market that Sony knows their clientele, right? I said this morning in a video. I said that Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox were all on the same island, right? They were all companies making games for gamers. But now they're three separate islands, right? Nintendo's got its island that it's on, right? Now PlayStation's got its island that it's on, and Xbox is doing the cloud thing, Game Pass thing, and so there's no competitors for any of the three big guys that are in the market. And now that people are blaming Xbox for this price for PlayStation, I'm like, that's not how that works. I was like, they were going to make this price regardless. This wasn't a surprise of like, yeah, this is what we're doing. I just think that they know their clientele. The clientele already bought a $549 VR headset. The clientele already bought a $200 Portal that's not doing very well in sales. People told me it was selling like hotcakes. I talked about it today. I was like, they sold less than 700,000 units in the U.S. for this Portal, right? It's a niche. They're selling the niches because there's a saturation point that's happening in the consoles. Each console generation has gotten less and less and less because of competition, because of just mobile phones, PC game. Less people are buying the consoles, and now they're trying to double down, triple down on the people that spend that money to double down on them, like the whales, like the people that for microtransactions that they'll spend that $1,000 or $2,000 on that stuff. And I don't know if this is a good move on Sony's part. I think this is a test market. We talked about it on the stream today about, are they testing the ground for a $1,000 console in the future? And I don't know if they do that. I think that's a bad thing to do, because now people like consoles because consoles separate from PC. But now if you're getting up into that echelon of PC, then like Now
Yeah.
you're making a competition for yourself that you don't even need to be, right? You could have just stayed
Yeah.
in your lane as a console, but now you're making the prices closer to the PC market.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, and you're really just you're sort of tempting people to consider something that they may have never considered.
Correct.
I think a lot of console players, like I said, they see themselves as console players. Like, well, I don't play PC. That's just not me. That's not who I am. That's just kind of the identity that I think about myself. And if they launch PS6 and it's $1,000, and you're going to start seeing YouTube videos that are going to say, hey, for $1,500, the $1,500 that you're going to spend on that and the extra controller and the TV and whatever, and the $160-$180 a year that you're going to pay for PS Plus or whatever, right? Like when you do all the calculations, you're going to be so expensive that you're either going to be equal with or just shy of what a gaming rig is going to run you.
Yeah.
And there are some inconveniences with PC gaming that I do think are valid. I think people tend to like just, oh, it's not, it is a big deal for a lot of people. They don't want to install drivers. They don't want to download Steam. They don't want to sift through the store and find stuff. They don't want to, oh, is it on Steam? Is it on Epic? There are some they're not, I don't think they're huge, but they are there. And for someone who just wants to turn their console on and play a game, those things suck, and that's what keeps them out of PC gaming.
Right.
But you're right. If the consoles price themselves up near PC, then people are going to go, well, I'm paying the same amount anyway. I may as well go see what the PC people are talking about, because now my money excuse isn't there anymore. I used to tell myself, well, PC gaming is expensive, that's why I don't do this, right? Well, when that excuse is gone, I think you're going to see a lot more people that are going to get into it, or and they might start to explore options like gaming laptops or
Right.
Steam Deck. I think is going to start to get bigger. Some of those more console-esque things that are a little more plug and play, so that it doesn't seem so overwhelming. And yeah, I think consoles are. You're absolutely right. You framed or phrased it great. They're creating their own competition that they don't need to. It's so stupid.
Right. They had their own lane, and they're just like, yeah, we need competition. Look,
Yeah.
competition is great as far as like if you want to get exclusives for your console and stuff like that. I hate the third party deals that they make with the stuff. I
Yeah.
think the only way they sell this PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 Pro is if they do that timed exclusive with a game like Grand Theft Auto 6, right? That
Yes.
would move the consoles. But at the end of the day, what else is coming out? If it's just Grand Theft Auto 6, am I going to pay $700 for a console
Right.
just for one game? I don't know.
And that's next year. That's
Yeah,
you're not
supposedly
gonna
it's
see it
next
till
year,
next
yeah.
year. Maybe next winter, but who knows? It'll come out when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out.
Yeah.
And Sony is just like, it's very strange to see their business decisions, because Concord obviously is the big news item that they just blew so much money, and now Fair Games is going to be the next thing they're blow money on, because just like they're accidentally creating competition with themselves and PCs, they're accidentally creating, they want to get into this live service market.
Yeah.
And so now you again have this kind of disconnect between the audience they want and the audience they have. And Sony has always kind of made a name for themselves as, we make great single player games. We bring those really good experiences to you. Whereas Xbox sort of defined themselves as, this is where you come to play Halo with your friends. Like that's what really launched
Right.
Xbox's whole existence. And then Sony is like, we're going to dump money into these live service games. And I think the PS Pro would be so much easier to stomach if in that presentation they said, if the Concord disaster had not happened, if the Fair Games disaster was not looming, which is going to be a disaster, it looks cringy as hell. And if they had taken that money and instead invested into bought Bluepoint and said, we're going to expand you, we're going to remake so many, what you guys did with Demon Souls, we're going to do that to everything. It's going to be amazing, right? And if they had said, hey, PS5 Pro, and guess what? Bloodborne is coming out and it's fully retextured. It's freaking 4K. It's 60 FPS, 120 FPS. It's Bloodborne like you've never seen. People would be freaking out. They would buy that thing to play that. If they could say, we've invested in some studios to make some killer exclusive single player games and they look beautiful, and you want to get this PS5 Pro to get the most out of these games, that would move those consoles. But right now, what am I going to play on it that I haven't already played? You know, that's going to look so much better. Like I don't care.
Yeah. I played this game last night called Towerborn, which is a open world RPG side scrolling fighting game. Have you seen it or heard of it?
I have not.
It's
What's the name of it?
Towerborn. Okay, it's
Oh
the
yeah, yeah, I saw you were streaming that last night.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
the people
I
that made
haven't.
it are the people that made Banner Saga and whatnot. If you've ever played that in the past, Stoic
Hmm.
Games. This game is so charming. Like the way, um, and I think this is the wheelhouse that Xbox is trying to go, right? Because if they make games like Starfield and spend hundreds of millions of dollars and stuff like that on these type of games, and they just, or you need those big titles. But I think Game Pass and their wheelhouse is making games like this and making games like Immortals, 33 Immortals. I don't know if you've seen that
Hmm.
game as well. Man, these two games are different. They're not competing against these like these hero shooters or these battle royales or anything like that. They've made these niche little games that not going to sell, I don't think, millions and tens of millions of copies, but to be on the platform of what Xbox is doing with Game Pass, to have a
Yeah.
game like Towerborn on there and to have a game like 33 Immortals and then obviously the other games, I think that people are not understanding what the business model is. Everyone thinks that they need to have these like triple A, quadruple A games that they're doing, and really, um, it's these just fun, artistic style games that are not really competing against anybody. They're just it's something that you've seen, but it's different in a different way. It almost reminds me of
Yep.
remember the old cartoon. Is it Dragon Quest? I think it was the art style of Dragon Quest. It's an old
Yeah.
cartoon, right?
Yeah.
That's what Towerborn reminds me of. It reminds me of like the Dragon Quest animation type of stuff, but it also reminds me of like a side scroller, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action game like that. And it's just done differently. It's not this, oh, it's a hero shooter just like everything else. Oh, it's a battle
Right.
royale like something else. So I'm really surprised that they're coming out with games like this. It's not doing very well right now. Obviously, it's in early access on Steam. I think it was like
Yeah.
less than 600 people. It's catching up to Concord. But there's it's a really really nice, like it's like a cozy game. It's hard too. The bosses I fought against, the gotta check it out. Some of the animations and stuff are brilliant. And they tweeted, I tweeted out today, they go check it out, and then the company got back to me today, and they're like, "Oh, go check out because I like the music." They sent me a link to the guy's music, the guy who made the music. I'm not now. I want to see if I want to talk to him about music making for video games because it's beautiful music, beautiful
Yeah.
art style. So I wish people would play more games like this. It's going to be free to play, right? You don't have to pay the $25 for the Founders Pack type of thing, early access. It's going to be a free to play game when it comes out. So, is there a game, as we're wrapping it up here, is there a game that you're looking forward to the most for like this year or maybe coming out next year?
There is one. There's a game coming out. Was supposed to come out next year called Claire Obscure, and if Robert Pattinson didn't sign over rights to his face, he needs to sue because they're using his face. It looks just like him. But there was another classic PS1 game called Legend of the Dragoon,
Okay.
and it seems to have mechanics from that sort of the quick time that quick time mechanic where you would attack and then you would need to hit a sequence of buttons to power up your attack or whatever. It's turn based, but it still looks really nice. Like it doesn't look cartoony. It's got an interesting concept that there's some mysterious evil painter, and everybody of a certain age every year disappears, and then you're up next, so you go to try to fight her and everything. And so it looks like it looks like a well-written, kind of emotional, moving type experience, but also it's turn-based and it looks really pretty, and it has the Legend of Dragoon kind of mechanics to it. Like it's got a lot of nostalgic things that are exciting me, but also it looks beautiful and it looks like it's emotional. Like it looks like it has some of the things that we didn't have back then. I'm excited about that one. Claire Obscure.
I'll have to check it out. My guilty
That was
pleasure.
announced during Gamescom or something.
My guilty pleasure that I'm waiting for is the Transformers Reactivate game, which I think is going to be like the first Descendant and like Warframe. It's going to be a microtransaction haven, but I'm a huge Transformers fan. Is there an IP that you love, like that you're a big fan of, like movie wise, cartoon wise?
I always used to say Final Fantasy, but the last couple have not. I can't say I'm a Final Fantasy fan anymore, but they went action, and I'm not a huge fan of that anymore. I would say, man, I can't think now. See, it's like when you ask me my favorite music. Now I can't think of any bands that exist ever. No, I'll still go. I still like Final Fantasy. I like the worlds that they make, even though it's not like a cohesive thing. That's always been a big love of mine.
So you never played Final Fantasy Online?
I have not. I used to play MMOs. I used to play World of Warcraft,
But then
and
you
then I
got a
started
family.
having kids.
Then you got a family.
And then you can't do both.
Yeah. I try to get back into MMOs. I'm like, I just can't do it. Because every time you're
This
about
is-
to
yeah,
do
no.
a raid run or something, your kid comes in the room,
Right.
Dad, I need help with something. You're like, all right.
This isn't made for us.
Yeah.
No, yeah. It's when you're doing like, it's you and 24 other people, and you're trying to coordinate, and you're like, you have to be quiet. I'm in the middle of something.
Yeah.
I can't pause. No.
Dad, I need you to reach the peanut butter on the top shelf. All right, give me a second. Hold on, guys. Just give me 1 second. Yeah.
Middle of a boss fight. I'm tanking this. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Oh man. Yeah, so
yeah, that's
it's there's a lot, man. There's so many good games that are coming out, but at the same time, I'm always a little hesitant to get excited. Right, this year's my expectations I brought down. I'm like, it'll be good in 18 months. It'll be good in 24 months.
they're all getting more and more of a letdown. I mean, even I if I'm being honest with myself, I did not love the Elden Ring DLC as
Really?
much as I wanted to. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was great, but I thought 11 out of 10 it's going to be, right? And it's more of like a 9. There are critiques that are very valid for it, and I think they're still fixing it. It's kind of the similar thing with Outlaws. Like, they're making fixes, which is an admission that like, this wasn't really this wasn't really what we wanted, and we do need to fix some things, and we didn't realize it. So they're still fixing that one. But yeah, it's all over the place where everything feels underbaked. If even by a little bit. Like Shadow of the Erd Tree just feels a little underbaked. It's a little underbalanced. It's not terrible, but I think almost all the games feel to some degree or another like you needed a little more time. Some of them maybe 6 months, some of them 2 years.
Right.
But it's hard to think of a game recently that I feel like was done when it shipped.
I'll have one more question for you, and then we'll wrap it up. What is your lead runner? If you played a game or just see it or whatnot, what's your lead game for Game of the Year this year?
I'm trying to think of what's come out this year.
We had Stellar Blade, we got Wukong, you got Astrobot, you got the Mario game coming out, you got the Zelda game coming out, I think this week or whatnot. I don't know if Elden Ring's DLC could get nominated. Probably. Why not? Who cares?
I don't think that it can. I don't think that one's going to count as a
Dragon's Dogma 2, Helldivers 2. Chat, what do you guys think? What do you guys think the lead runner is right now for Game of the Year?
Right now, Wukong is going to be in the lead because it is kind of a newer, it's a newer one. It's sold a bunch. I think that one's going to be interesting to see if it gets a bunch of awards because I genuinely do not believe that it's like excellent quality. I just think it's very good. It's very, very good. But I think that some of the drama surrounding it has elevated it in a lot of people's minds, and the sales are massive. And so I think that's going to play, and people are going to be like, that's Game of the Year. But I think up against like a Zelda game, or I think there are other games that are a little bit better. So I'm curious to see what happens with that this year. But I think right now that's either Game of the Year or the Elden Ring DLC is my Game of the Year right now. But
I've been watching a lot of footage of Astrobot, and I don't have a PlayStation. I think that might come in and be up there as the leader.
I'm pumped. I think I'm going to buy that one this weekend because, like I said, the first one came with the PS5, and it literally is it's a tech demo. I mean, it
was like 3 hours long.
Yeah, it takes place inside of the PlayStation 5. So like there are the parts of the PlayStation 5 in there. It's neat looking. And then there was a bunch of nostalgia. You're the little robot, and you would find other robots that were just kind of hanging out, and they were characters from a lot of like old PlayStation. There was a Bloodborne hunter guy, there was a God of War guy, there was a dude from what was not Outlaws, Outcasts. Oh gosh, I can't remember the one where you absorb the powers. You're an Indian kid, and then they made like a laser base. Anyway, there were.
I'm trying to think of the game. I'm like, I have no idea.
Oh, it's killing me. That's gonna bother me. I'm gonna look it up. But it was like a bunch of little nostalgia things you could find, and it was really designed to show off their haptic feedback for their controller, which is a super cool concept that no developer has taken advantage of, and it was a neat selling point that did set the PS5 apart, and nobody. That's the last game I recall actually using it. Like it's interesting when you walk around. If you ever get a chance, if you know somebody with a PS5 and they have Astrobot, you should try it because, like, when you're walking through sand, the controller has multiple vibrations in it, and it vibrates in a strange way, different than when you're walking on stone or when you're walking through grass. And there's a little speaker on the controller. Like there is a little bit of a tactile feedback to it. It's very interesting, and that game was designed to just show that off, and it was very cool feeling, and it was so much fun that everybody wanted more, and then then they ended up making an entire game. So I'm excited to play that one.
Oh, very cool. All right, no chat doesn't have any. All right, we got Wukong, Astrobot, Stellar Blade, Helldivers 2, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. Someone said Space Marines 2. Yeah, I think we have
Infamous.
The 6.
That was the one.
You guys are missing the Nintendo games. I think the Brotherhood game of Mario and Luigi's Brotherhood. I think that might be nominated, and I think the Zelda, the actual Zelda game, where you actually get to play Zelda.
Those are good. Like Luigi's Mansion was really good a couple of years ago. Like Nintendo just does good game design.
Yeah,
Water Bear's got it. Infamous is the one I was thinking of. That was a fun game. Yeah, I think Wukong is going to be a big runner. I don't keep up with a lot of Nintendo anymore, just because I just don't have time. It's not even that I don't like them, but I think Nintendo's always in the running because they make good games. And what are you going to say? They make excellent games. If they make a more powerful Switch, I have no interest in a PS5 Pro. Like, that's just dumb. Even if I had $700 extra, I still don't care that much. But if there's a powerful Switch that actually runs things, yeah, I might get one. I could see me getting that. That's.
I bought a Switch because of Ultimate Alliance 3. That's why I bought it. And Waterbear's a big fan of it. He jokes around. He's like, "What about the next Switch has Ultimate Alliance 4?" I was like, "You shut your mouth. You shut your mouth. I don't want it to be exclusive on Nintendo. I want it to be like everywhere." All right, on that, we're gonna let Greg head off because he's had 2 hours. So, Greg.
Yeah, and I hate that I have stuff to do because we could talk for another 2 hours. I'm having a great time talking to you.
You're more than welcome to come back.
I got kid stuff I got to do
anytime. Tell people where they could find you, all your social medias, and if you have any other videos coming out that you're working on, let people know.
Just the one, just Greg Owen, YouTube. That's it. I don't spread out too much. I probably should, but I just don't have time for that. And what do we got? We got a video next week, more along the veins of the last one, of just like that people are making things for themselves, not for the audience. It's a lot of selfishness in entertainment right now. So that's the next one coming up. And then there will be later on some more Star Wars Acolyte talking about its creator, and just she's a very bad person. So we're going to go into detail on that one day, probably for about 2 hours.
I can't wait. Part 2 of the Acolyte there. So
yeah, that's going to be a fun one to make. So yeah, let's do this again sometime, because this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime I put it out to everybody else that comes out, because everyone says, I don't know if I could talk for 2 hours. And I was like, all right, whatever. And then they're like, I want to come back. I'm like, yeah, anytime you want to come back, you come on back.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I appreciate you, man, giving me your.
We could do this till midnight, easy.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on the channel, because a lot of people honestly don't even give me a chance because I'm such a small YouTuber. So I do appreciate your time coming out and talking to us.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
All right, just hang tight real fast. I'm gonna just end up with the stream, and then I'll give you a send off after we log off. Chat, thank you very much. YouTube Lurker, thank you very much for the 50 gifted memberships. Thank you very much for the super chat and the membership. Anybody else that would like to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to go above and beyond that, become a member as little as $5. We do a stream Monday through Thursday from 10 o'clock in the morning till about noon Eastern. We also do gameplay streams Monday night, Tuesday night. We do a podcast Wednesday, or we shoot the shit with Sarge on Wednesday nights. And then we also end up the week with a Generation X Gaming podcast tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We appreciate you very much for hanging out with us, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.